When did you last take time to focus on your mental health? You're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling stressed. Life shouldn't be this hard. What if I told you there was a brand new app made just for you? What if I told you there was an app that would help you focus on your mental health while still maintaining your competitive public persona so that your friends can finally stop worrying about you? Introducing Therapy Wars, a revolutionary new platform that combines your wellness with your addiction to social media. Therapy Wars gamifies your wellness progress so you can constantly compare how you're doing with other therapy warriors. Working on yourself has never been more fun. Earn Calm coins for every session. Earn mindfulness medals for every breakthrough. And see how your journey stacks up against your network of other lost souls with our state-of-the-art leaderboard, updated in hyper real time. If you're like most of us here at Therapy Wars, you're tired of getting just a few notifications after posting a selfie from the gym. Well, we've got you covered there, because Therapy Wars keeps your phone screen flooded with red notification bubbles all day, every day. Every time a red bubble hits our screens, we're flooded with endorphins and feel-good hormones that let us momentarily forget our mounting, insurmountable existential dread. And that's the secret behind the efficacy of Therapy Wars. For the first time ever, you can meditate while earning in-app currency that combines the stress-free fun of the blockchain with the satisfaction of clearing your mind. But don't look away for too long, because while you were being mindful, you might have just dropped 300 spots in the in-app rankings. Therapy Wars. Because taking time for yourself only matters if you're the best at it. Download Therapy Wars today and get started on being the best at getting better. What's up, everybody? Today is Thursday, August 24th, 2023, and I'm coming at you today with an interview. It's been a while. This is the first content we put out since the Electric Forest 2 Great Expectations cartoon. If you haven't checked that out, go watch it, because today's guest is someone that I met at Electric Forest. It's somebody who plays a prominent role in the cartoon, but more than anything, it's somebody that I really bonded with this year at Electric Forest. And he's a unique guy. He's an international man of mystery. He's got a diverse background, and it's a long one. And it's long because, first off, in the editing process, there wasn't a lot I wanted to take out. And number two, when I'm meeting a new friend, it's not something that I really want to shortchange. And it was a great conversation. It does go a long time, as you can probably see by the runtime. So I have some notes here. If you're interested in the entire thing, keep going. Let it roll. Take breaks when you need to. Pause it when you need to. Take rests when you need to. But come back and listen. Todd's an interesting guy. You're going to enjoy it. But if you're short on time, the first 35 minutes or so are spent on Todd's background. Then from the 35-minute mark roughly to like the 1 hour and 25-minute mark, you hear about Todd's exploits in Thailand. He went there as an exchange student, and you'll hear all about his time there. And then for the next 20 minutes, so like from the 1 hour 25-minute to 1 hour 45-minute marks, you hear about the business that he created with a connected Thai national who had some political power, and that got Todd into some meetings he never would have been able to get into. It's quite a story. It ends in a coup. Todd had nothing to do with the coup, but it did impact his business. And then around the 1 hour and 45-minute mark, you'll hear about the loss of Todd's father, which of course is an impactful thing that coincided with him coming back from Thailand and setting up his life here in the U.S. And the final 40 minutes or so are all about that. It's a super entertaining conversation. He's a quirky guy. I'm a quirky guy. That's probably why we love each other. This is a bromance, the likes of which I haven't seen in a decade. So I hope you enjoy this. And with that, let's start the show.
It's a mess in this attic. Lot going on, but there ain't no need to panic. Come on up and join. We getting wild, getting manic. Spitting truth for all you fanatics. Every week got something new to say. Ain't no filter, this shit coming straight from the brain. It's coming straight from the brain. Yeah, it's coming straight from the brain.
Okay, so here's the deal. You probably noticed by Todd's headwear that he was the famous Energy Dome user, or just, what do you say, advocate? Energy Dome advocate?
Enthusiast.
from the Electric Forest 2 cartoon. If you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
Todd, you wouldn't. That is your favorite thing in the world.
It's working, it's working. It's all in the ziggurat geometry. It funnels the power from all beneath it.
And with that, almost full power was restored to the forest. You're not quite ready to watch that yet? Then you get to meet one of the central figures, one of the stars of the show, Todd Bacon. I just met him at Electric Forest this year myself. Thanks for coming on, Todd. I'm super happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, dude. So, this is a situation where Todd doesn't have an album that he's releasing, and he doesn't have a business he's pitching. This is just two friends talking, which means we're going to be able to take this in a number of directions. So I think what's most interesting about you is your world travel. So I think we need to spend some time on that. But I did want to get a couple housekeeping items out of the way first. Is it true that you are an heir to the bacon guy, the guy that made bacon, invented bacon?
That is 100% true. Yeah.
100% true.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about bacon in terms of other cured meats?
It's my favorite.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that only because your name's Bacon?
I think I'm completely unbiased, really. It has nothing to do with my name. I think it's the best cured meat.
Do you like the thicker cut one? What's your go-to?
I think you really can't go wrong with bacon. It doesn't necessarily need to be a super thick cut, though.
No.
It just.
I'm not looking for a pork steak here.
I like the crispiness of bacon, and like a BLT, a nice crispy one. Like it's too thick, it gets maybe a little bit chewy, So
yeah. So we got that out of the way. I'm glad that was just hanging over the head of the interview. It was hanging over our heads, and now we can put that aside.
That was the most hard hitting probably question for the whole interview.
I told you I wasn't going to pull any punches here. So let's be real here. What's your background?
I was born in Grand Rapids, and my family moved away from Grand Rapids when I was 3, and we moved to a town called Adrian, Michigan, which is for people that live in Michigan. I can't. This is not a visual thing, so they can't see that I'm holding my hand out.
It is a visual thing.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's like right here.
Okay,
and
south of Detroit, southwest of Detroit.
Yeah, so like we'd say in between Ann Arbor and Toledo.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a small town, like 20,000 people. Pretty rural. Farming was a big deal, and that was the largest city in the county.
Okay. What county is that?
Lenawee County.
Lenawee County.
Yep. And my father was the county administrator for that county.
What does that entail?
So you have the city; they have their own government. They have a mayor and or the council members.
Yeah, the board.
Yeah. And then an administrator would be the person who actually does the day-to-day operations of running the government.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if the county administrators were elected officials that were in different districts of that county, and then they would say, okay, well, we have these tax dollars that we want to spend, but we have to maintain the roads, we have to maintain the sheriff's office, we have to do the solid waste department, all
the operational stuff. Yeah.
All those things. So he was like the CEO, if you want to think of it, of implementing their plans.
So in other words, the bacon name pulls some weight in Adrian.
It was it was not an industrial, like, there just aren't a lot of like corporations there, or like
not a lot of interest
opportunities to have any kind of like position where you have like a lot of responsibility or something. So like he, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people knew him. He, like, I always got a kick out of it because, like, the local newspaper would interview him, and he'd like, oh, my dad's like in the newspaper, and he's like quoted. He's famous, So.
And now here you are on a podcast that will be viewed or seen by about as many people as the Adrian Gazette.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. So, like, did you have a close relationship with your parents coming up?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did. Like, I had a very great childhood. My parents did get divorced when, like fourth grade, maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
And then my mom didn't move away. So like they lived like a mile or two apart.
Yeah.
So it was
copacetic.
It was easy to get to see my mom and get to see my dad.
Yeah. And of course you have a brother as well who's also in the Electric Forest cartoon.
Yeah, my younger brother Ross. Yeah.
And that's really the connection here. So the way I met Todd is that our direct next door neighbor, Kirk, his best friend growing up is your brother, Ross. And we electric forest through the neighbor. So like that's kind of how this has gone. And
Kirk and Ross, and then Kirk Ross.
Exactly. We have a picture of that. Kirk Ross. Yeah. It's
what's your you have an A for
Alan.
Alan. Okay.
And I don't want to brag, but when it comes to standardized testing, each of my 3 names each has 4 letters. So standardized testing, when you have to do the bubble sheets.
Yeah.
I was flying through that. Flying through it. And I came from a Polish area, kind of, so like a lot of my friends had these crazy last names. They wouldn't even be able to put the whole thing in there before they ran out of Scantron space. So perhaps that's why I was a good test taker. I didn't have the pressure.
I thought you were going to make a joke about them being unintelligent because they were Polish.
No. That would, you say something like that in Bay City, and those are fighting words.
Well, like I remember when in like the 80s, like Polish jokes and blonde jokes were like 90% of all jokes.
All the TV, you watch those old sitcoms, it's all that kind of shit.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't even think there were hardly any Polish people at all. Or I don't remember any, and I'm like, I don't understand why we're making fun of these people. I don't know who they are, but like they're all about them being really dumb.
I think it all has something to do with the wars. Like they made bad strategic decisions in World War I and II, maybe.
But
the government, but like
where
that doesn't
all the
make
French jokes.
That doesn't make the populace like all dumb either.
I don't understand where those came from. They like really were popular.
Yeah, I remember this joke when I was a kid. It was, 2 blondes. They're on their way to Disney World, and there's a big sign, and it said Disney World left. So they turned around and went home. And I remember thinking, like, I know some women and men that are blonde. They don't seem like particularly dumb.
Yeah, that's also the whole blonde jokes. Like, I don't remember being like meeting like dumb blondes. Like no. I don't know.
Trust me, I was looking. They weren't even out there. What about like do you remember the T-shirts, Big Johnson T-shirts?
I used to have one.
Oh, me too. I had one where we had a big fishing rod.
Stand back. I don't know how big this thing's gonna get. And it was like, he was like, I don't know what it was like a sports one. They had like basketball and football and like soccer or whatever.
Was he holding something like phallic? Usually
I wish I still had my Big
something?
Johnson t-shirt now that I think about it. There's like this sporting goods store called The Peak downtown. And like we live very close to downtown. So downtown was like, for me, was like where it's at. Like we live like a block away.
County building was right there.
Yeah, the county building is right there. Like we had a movie rental place. There's a movie theater, a candy shop, which I worked at, a bike shop, which I worked at, like 4 different like baseball card shops, comic book shops.
It's a kid's paradise.
There was a magic shop, a joke like novelty store. It was like, it was great, but this was like the early 80s, mid 80s. And then it like just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And now it's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
The downtown area is.
Yeah.
The Big Johnson. So like, I remember somehow my mom was aware of the Big Johnson t-shirts. I'm not sure like how. And I was young. I was like 11 or 12.
But kind of the peak age for Big
like,
Johnson shirts.
Wow. And so like older kids had Big Johnson t-shirts, and like somehow I bought it myself or convinced her to buy it for me. And it was like, I was a very small individual. I was very small, much smaller than everybody else. And so I had this Big Johnson t-shirt that was like a men's small, but it was like down to my knees. And I'm just like, that is so dumb, but I wore it.
Well, I mean, if you got a Big Johnson, you got to applaud it.
Like I did, like
yeah.
Now I'm like pining for my Big Johnson t-shirt.
I know, dude. They've been on my mind lately. I don't know why. Sometimes I like talking about old days just so I can bring it up.
Yeah.
So outside of Big Johnson t-shirt, so you were probably, I gather you were a good student, or at least you're a smart guy. I assume you were a good student.
For a while. So I got good grades, and then I ended up skipping 5th grade. So I went from 4th grade to like a little bit of 5th grade, like the first part of 5th grade. And then I was like, I think I just talked my mom into it. Like, I don't even know if I took a test or anything, because it's like the 80s and like you could just do whatever.
You're like, Mom, I've got a Big Johnson shirt. I'm ready for junior high.
I think it was probably the Big Johnson t-shirt that
really put it over the edge.
Yeah. And so then I went to 6th grade. And then I got good grades all through there, but then I actually went to high school, and I was like in 9th grade, and I didn't like it at all. I hated high school. I was like super small, and our town had two middle schools. So it was Drager Middle School and Springbrook Middle School, and they merged together in high school.
You're right.
So you have like, I was like the president of my class at Drager, and I was like,
yeah.
Like people knew me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The bacon name was strong in this one.
People knew me. And then when it merged, I was like, I don't know any of these kids. And like, people are acting different. And like, this is just weird. And I don't like it.
Yeah.
And so I convinced my parents to go back and repeat 8th grade.
Oh, because you had that extra year already.
Yes. So I skipped 5th grade and I repeated 8th grade.
So it was like a homecoming back to your old buddies from the
No,
old days.
because I had not been to school with them for 3 years.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on? Like, I remember you from like 4th grade, maybe.
But you got jacked up to 6th grade. We thought you were on to bigger things. We thought you'd be in college by now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like people were like, I mean, I just remember being in like 9th grade and I was all like, my birthday is like later in the year.
So you were young too.
And I was just like super small, like, you know, and so it was like walking down the hallways in high school, people were just like, who is this Doogie Howser guy? Like, what is going on with this guy? You know? And I was just like, I'm not feeling this at all.
Yeah.
So I went back into the 8th grade again. And that was like, that was interesting. And then I got reintegrated and then I went through high school. And then like right around like the end of my middle of my sophomore, end of my sophomore year, I just kind of like gave up. I was like, I had all A's up to that point, and I was like, I want to go to the University of Michigan. That's like, that's what I want to do. I'm a big Michigan fan, and you probably have to edit that part out.
I'm a big Michigan fan, and
I want to go to Michigan, and you have to get all A's to do that. That's like what this guidance counselor said. So then I was like, well, I'm not sure what happened, but I just lost all interest in school, and then I just started like really just doing whatever I wanted to do, like whenever I wanted to do, which did not involve like
homework.
Did not involve homework at all. No. I ended up not doing very well after that. So I went from like first in my class to like almost last in my class. And then like towards the end of high school, they're like, it was time to graduate, and like I didn't have enough credits to graduate. Because I had like, they had an attendance requirement, and it was very strict. It was like if you miss 10 days, you get a fail. No matter how good you did on the class, you're automatically
you're expelled
failed
from that class. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're not expelled. You still have to go to the class.
What a joke.
Yeah, what kind of, like, now that I look back, like, what kind of policy is that? Like, why don't I have to be there?
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom.
Insane. So, so I failed a lot of classes that way, and then like I did not get to graduate like with my class. And so like people were like, why weren't you there? I'm like, well, I didn't graduate. And they're like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I had like a whole nother semester that I had to do, and it didn't really hit me that I'm like, I can't go back again, like to high school. Like that's gonna be too embarrassing.
You should have gone back to 8th grade.
I should have gone back to 8th grade. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Finally filled out a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It would have made the basketball team. And I think my dad like worked out something with the principal who he was in Rotary with, and like they'd worked out a deal basically to like save face for me.
Yeah,
maybe my dad.
Yeah, for your dad.
And then
the county can't take under black guy Todd.
So I went to a community college in our hometown, but it wasn't like the main branch of the community college. It was like an extension of the community college. And
That's big time.
Yeah, I went to an extension of the community college, which was called Jackson Community College, which, no joke, was a modern day version of a one-room schoolhouse. It was a 1-story ranch building, and it was like an L-shaped, and there was probably like 10, 15 classrooms there in the whole thing.
It sounds like a Christian fundamentalist compound.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was like. It's exactly what is right. So I ended up taking classes there that they allowed me to get college credit and high school credit.
Damn.
At the same time.
This is such a scramble.
Yeah. And so I passed those classes or whatever, and I was like unsure like what I was gonna do at that point.
Michigan was probably out of the picture at this point.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't, because I was like, well, you know, I've heard about like college transfers are much easier than high school.
Yeah.
And so I actually went to Michigan and like spoke with the admin counselor, and they're like, what's it take to like transfer in here? And they're like, well, you need to have about this kind of grade point average. But if you don't have a certain amount of credits, we look at your high school grades too. And so I think you needed to have like almost 2 full years of of college credits before they ignore your
high school performance.
Your high school performance. And I was like, I don't want to be going here for 2 years.
Yeah.
I looked at some other colleges because at this point I was like, I really probably should go to college.
Yeah.
And so I applied to Wayne State University. I applied to Michigan State University. And I applied to Grand Valley State University. And my father had gone to Grand Valley in undergrad, and then he got a graduate degree in public administration from Michigan State.
Okay.
So I was
those are your two legacies.
Yeah, and he was from Grand Rapids, and then so I got into Wayne State, I got into Michigan State, and Grand Valley for some reason did not let me in. I don't know why they didn't let me in.
Very tough standards in the GLIAC.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. They didn't let me in. I was like, whatever. So I was very thrilled to get into Michigan State.
Yeah.
And there was people I went to high school with, but they were not my friends.
Yeah.
And so like, because I mean, the way it worked in my high school would be like a very large portion of kids would not go to college.
Yeah.
They just would do the trades or just whatever.
Yeah.
And then so like the college bound kids, the vast majority of them would be in state.
Yeah.
And so it's like a very pecking order where like the valedictorian, salutatorian would go to Michigan. And then like the people that are like, you know, like maybe got a few B's would go to Michigan State.
Yeah.
And then the rest would kind of spread out to like Central or Eastern Michigan or Toledo or something like that. So
right.
I was very thrilled to get into Michigan State. And I was like, my Michigan fandom is dead. Like I hate
the moment you enrolled.
I hate Michigan, you know, like screw those guys. Looking at my high school transcript. How dare they do that? So anyways, I went to Michigan State and but that year where I was at home, I think it was actually pretty good for me. It was pretty good for me to do that because I was just clearly not ready to like to enter the adult world at that point.
Right.
And so I worked at like my local newspaper in the circulation department because my dad was like, you got to get a job.
What's that, like dropping off to the routes?
So that would be like calling people up and be like, you haven't paid your bill. Like, when do you want to reactivate your like service or whatever? I did that. And there'd be like, I remember there's like some bonus where you could like, if you can get someone to reactivate, like you get like $5 or something like that.
Fuck yeah.
And like a contest. And like, I remember the circulation department, like the manager, like her daughter worked for there. And like she was like all into it, you know, all into
this
it.
Is like in the blood.
Taking it super seriously. And like, but the job would like, I have to be there like early Saturday morning for some reason because of papers or whatever. Like, so like, I just remember like, not calling anybody to like reactivate their subscription and taking like this big wooden broom and just taking like baseball cuts for like while she's making those calls, and I'd be like, I think I can win this contest. I think you're doing pretty good. How many people have you like signed up, you know?
Yeah.
And so they didn't really like me that much, but I didn't get fired.
It probably was also good for you to like kind of see like, okay,
this could be my future.
This could be my future if
yeah.
I don't. Yeah, like I need to get motivated about something.
Yeah. I mean, like there's like I have a long history of like being like a smart ass, just being a jackass.
This is kind of why we're friends.
Yeah, you know, a long history of that, and just finding, you know, thinking everything's funny and like something is a big joke. So
kind of is though.
Yeah,
come on.
I mean, it really was. It really was.
It kind of still is.
Yeah, it kind of still is.
Of course, you have a kid now, so like that's kind of serious, but that's fun too.
Yes. So like I did that, and then like a friend from middle school, we were good friends, and then like we kind of lost touch in high school, and he was at Jackson Community College too, the extension. And nice. So like we had like a class together, and then another friend from high school too. So like we were in like the advanced math class. So like they would bus us to the high school in middle school to take the high school math class, geometry class.
Yeah.
And then here we all like 4 years later, we're all at this community college extension. We were like at the top of our class, you know, like
the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yeah, exactly. And so we would go to the YMCA and play racquetball in like the middle of the daytime, and like there was like the men's like a fitness room, you know, and like but there's like a secret door code for it, and like we found out the code. I don't know if your listeners are ever in the YMCA, but like in ours, there'd be like a bunch of middle-aged men that are naked all the time.
Yeah, dude. There's a certain age at the Y at least where you get a certain age and you start to think that you should get out of the shower, then like not only walk around naked, but sometimes put your leg up on the bench while they're talking to you.
Yeah.
Like right at eye level, you're like, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
it's like they've reached some point, because at that time I was like not comfortable being naked.
I still would not be comfortable going to the Y and being naked, I don't think.
I'm not sure will ever reach that level of nakedness with anybody. But so anyways, we would go there and they had like a steam room and a sauna, and like it was great. And we'd play racquetball and then basketball at night, and we'd go to a coffee shop and like they would smoke cigarettes and drink coffee, and we just talk about whatever. And so it was like a great freshman year of college for me, and I was still living at home.
Yeah.
So then I got accepted into Michigan State. Was super psyched to have that happen. And I was still a little immature at that time because I had these ideas from like 80s movies of like fraternities.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to Michigan State. I'm just going to join a fraternity, and I'm going to be like big man on campus. And all we're going to do is like having kegers and parties all day long.
Jello wrestling.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought college was going to be like. So with little prep, my dad drove me up to, and like, we moved into the dorm, and I was living in the dorm, and I lived in the transfer dorm because I was a sophomore at that point.
Yeah.
Because that was great, because I got high school credit and college credit, and I came in as a sophomore.
Yeah, you
so
really
I was
ended up kind of doing it the right way.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Out.
I saved a bunch of money and like had a great year, and I loved it. So went to this transfer dorm, and I was like, okay, like I need to like take this seriously, because this is like
this is my life now.
Yeah, this is my life now. So I actually was like, I should probably get good grades. So I was like pretty serious. I really didn't skip class. I'm like, what do I want to do with my studies? And I still thought I thought it was very serious. And so I was like, well, I want to be a lawyer. So
which you would be a good lawyer.
I think I probably
You're
would.
kind of a wordsmith. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty good at. I got a high score on the standardized test for like English, and like there are always people like the stuff I wrote, and like the stories I tell.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'll do that. Then I was political science, and my father was really into politics, so he was a political science major, and he had actually taught at University of Toledo government class.
Yeah.
Just for fun. Like they asked him to do it, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do this."
Yeah, I think I would love to teach something.
Yeah, he really liked it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It'd be cool. It's fun to share what you know, and especially if people are interested in like seeing them learn it, and that has to be
I
fun.
agree. Yeah. Yep. So he just loved. He could talk about that stuff like county government,
just off the top of his head. He knows it.
Yeah, and he was very like he would read a lot, and you could tell that he was. Other people could tell like he was a smart guy.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I was like, I'll do that. And then I did rush a fraternity, and it was called. So I went to visit a couple other like the rush week. I went and visited a couple of them, and like some of them I was just like, oh man, these guys kind of suck. Like I was like, I don't want to do this one.
These really aren't my people.
Yeah, no, I was like, I don't know about this. I was like, oh, whatever. But I was like, because I didn't really go in with anybody. Like the people I knew from high school, they would have already been there 1 year, and we didn't hang out anyway. So it was really
you were on your own. Yeah,
I was on my own. I didn't know my roommate. I knew nobody there, and so I rushed this fraternity called Delta Upsilon. Okay. And so like they have like a pledge class. There's like new people that are in there. And so I was doing that a little bit, going to my classes, and like I became friends with two of my pledge mates, a guy named Samir and from Hamtramck in Detroit, and he was actually from Yemen.
Okay.
And then another guy who is from Troy, Joshua. And so the two of us like clicked.
Yeah.
And so we were like doing this pledge stuff, like going to like football games, and like I don't even remember the dumb stuff they had us do.
Stuff that you weren't really that into at the time.
Well, I was kind of like, I mean, I was just doing it because I was like, I'm just gonna do this, right?
Yeah.
And so then like as time went on, we're looking to other people in the pledge class, and we're like, we're not really clicking with these guys. And so like some of the older guys in the house that were like members, like they seemed like pretty nice guys. They were actually nice. I never had to like do any weird naked stuff. I never like got hit or hazed or anything, right? So I was like kind of expecting something like that, but like
that's what the movies taught us all.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think they still do that at some of those places. So, but not this one. So we were doing stuff, and I was like, I'm not really feeling it with these other dudes. And then I actually got into a fight with pledge class president.
Like a fist fight?
Yeah, I like punched him. Yeah, I punched him. And then I was like, the other guys, like, what happened? I was like, well, I punched this guy. He's like, I'm dropping out. I don't want to be in here anymore. Like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm dropping out. And then those other two guys also dropped out.
Nice.
Joshua and Samir.
And so did you guys stay buddies?
And we did stay buddies. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. Yeah. Back to my like studies. I remember I was in the pre-law like society or whatever, and like there's like informational meeting, and at Michigan State the auditoriums are huge. There's
Yeah.
like 500 people. You know.
Yeah, these like these lecture halls are massive.
Yeah, the biggest lecture halls in the country, right?
Right.
The topic was like, if you want to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, be a lawyer. The professor, I don't remember who it was like, hey, like everybody here wants to be a lawyer. The whole point of his talk was basically to talk you out of being a lawyer. And he's like, listen, there's 500 people. He's like, look around. He's like, there are too many lawyers. Look around you. Like, you know, like how many people are in this room? He's like, do you have any idea how many lawyers we need versus how many people are in this room? and people are like, I don't know. And then he's like, look here, look to your right, look to your left. Only one of you three are like going to have a position for a job.
Yeah.
So you're going to compete against everybody in this room that wants to be a lawyer. There's too many lawyers, and there's like, it sucks. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, I just took that to heart. And
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's totally right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to do this. No way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I even want to do this at all, you
Right,
know?
right.
And so at the time, I remember other people talking about like, there was just like this glut of people going to law school. And I think that was based upon like, this is like the very early 2000s, like 2000.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, maybe from like the 80s or the 70s, you could just go to law school and you'd be like,
There's jobs.
People would think that if you're just a lawyer, you're therefore making a ton of money
Yeah.
and have like this sweet setup in life.
A high-rise
Yeah.
apartment and a bunch
Here's
of
a
girlfriends.
millionaire, and yeah, like
Cars.
that was kind of like the attitude from the small town that I was at. Like,
I mean, yeah, I still think that's kind of the attitude. I think I'm intimately familiar with it now because I'm married to Jessica, but like the vast majority of lawyers you meet are not wealthy. You know, like they're either getting by or they're working like a public service job, which doesn't pay very well for how hard it is. You know, and then there's the people that caught some big cases and are making fucking huge money.
yeah,
But that's what's portrayed on TV.
yeah.
You don't see like the prosecutor that's been working there for 20 years and
Well, you
hates
don't-
his job.
Yeah, you don't see the people who went to law school that don't
Even end up in law.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a massive. It's like 50% or something.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so I think like it's funny how long it takes society to adjust, if the society ever does adjust.
Well, Jessica now claims though that like Michigan is very, very underserved from a legal perspective.
Which is wild.
Like she came from Florida, which is a pretty litigious area and super good bar, and like so she came from a really good spot. But coming to Michigan, it's like there's a lot of people that need lawyers that can't find them, or
So-
it doesn't mean that you can make it as a business person though. It
Yeah.
just means there needs to be more available.
I
you
think
know?
I mean it's a very wide field. So
Yeah.
you know
People start specializing, and then
I think a lot of people in their mind like that go to law school are just like, I want to make a ton of money
yeah,
and I will just do whatever.
yeah,
And so it normally means going to get a job at a big law firm, the
Right.
best one.
which is like super political and like it's a lifetime. It's
You're working
90 hours a week minimum. and
but you're dying to make partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're like, oh my God.
and this is
It's like the frat. You're like, I don't fucking like these.
yeah. I once dated a girl who was a lawyer, and she was like, I was like, what's law school like? She's like, imagine high school where, you know, you have people that you don't like. Just imagine now all of those people are in your class. It's nothing but people that you don't like.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I was like, oh, that doesn't sound so great at all.
Jessica and I have gone to some like legal functions, you know, and it's a dry crowd. I like going and just mix it. I don't have anything to lose, you know, and Jess is cool. She doesn't care what I say.
Yeah,
So
it's cool.
I can like be a star at those things because it's such a dry it's such a dry room. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
A lot of like, you know, stuff like that. And like, how'd you hit him, Bill? Oh God.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think lawyers have a very horrible reputation.
Way worse than they should.
Yeah. So there's plenty of people that are like honest, hardworking lawyers, but you know, there's also
a lot of shitbags.
A lot. Yeah. So I changed my major at that point, and I was like, I'm not doing that. So,
but you basically were taking gen ed at that point anyway. Like it didn't waste a lot of your time.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
I really liked the political philosophy classes I took. I like that part about college is the breadth and diversity of knowledge that you can get.
Yeah.
Where you know in high school you're very constricted by
The schedule.
chemistry, physics, English 1, English 2, and English 3, and it's like, wow, you could take
Sociology? Holy shit.
Yeah, I took sociology.
I love that class.
took sociology. I took like the history of Judaism. I took political philosophy classes. I took general philosophy classes, and I was like, wow, I could just take these classes,
dude,
endlessly.
I mean, I was on an engineering track, and I kind of was at the point where I was just like getting grades. I didn't care. I just want to be done, you know. And like now I'm at this phase of my life. I really wish I could have taken advantage better and actually learned, and cared more instead of like just trying to get done, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, it's kind of like, and I'm torn on this like philosophy of going to college today because I think it's becoming less and less useful. If it ever was entirely useful,
at least the world was operating as if it was useful.
If it was, yes.
So that's why.
Yeah, right.
But like some of the best people I ever worked with don't have a degree, or went to some shitty school, and then some of the guys that went to Harvard or Michigan that I know aren't that impressive.
Yeah,
you know, it's like it doesn't really mean anything, but it was a way to classify someone. Can they get something done? Okay, they could probably work here then.
Yeah, it's a very societal construct, and so it's. I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, back when I was going there, it's like you have to say what you will about like what you learn at college, but like from a practical standpoint, in order to get a job, unless you are going to a specific trade, you're making your life incredibly more difficult than it needs to be. Because college is not that difficult.
No.
And like you can find a way to just go there and have it not be super expensive if you want to do it right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, if you look at it from a financial perspective, also, it's like loans are available, and like your lifetime earnings are going to be so much higher.
Yeah, your ROI is like 2 years.
So much higher. It's worth just taking out the loans to just do it.
Yeah.
Just from a practical standpoint, but like back, like my philosophy was when I was in college early on, I was like, this is great. I'll take these classes, and this is really fun to learn all this stuff. But then at the same time, I'm like, this is not practical knowledge in any sense of the word. Like
useful.
It's not useful. Like this, this is not helping me prepare to like work for a company.
No, unless you're gonna be a professor, knowing sociology isn't that important.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I remember going to meet my professors at like their office hours, and like they have all these books, and I was like, oh my god, like you read all these books and stuff. And I was like, then I'd ask them about they'd have like their degree on the wall. All of their degrees were from Harvard, Yale, Penn. They're all like Ivy League schools.
To become the experts at professor
They're
level.
all like Ivy League schools. And I'm like, and you're here at Michigan State as like an associate professor, you know.
Yeah, teaching a bunch of kids from Michigan State what are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, what chance would I have to be a professor? Like, I'm not even on that track. It's not even in my mindset. I was like, I need to like have a career.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, I need to do something practical. So I had always had from a very young age, an interest in business.
Yeah.
So like I mean, I can remember like renting out my toys to kids in my neighborhood in my basement.
That's hilarious.
When there was like a Hurricane Hugo came through, and then using the money to donate that to the relief fund.
You didn't skim anything off the top?
I think I gave it all.
Wow,
I gave it all there. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I made the telegram for that, the favor for that.
Now you're like, Dad's in the paper, so am I.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
that's quite a story though. So what were the terms? Like what kind of lease period?
It would be like per time. So like X amount of dollars for 30 minutes, or like I think,
when they were at your house.
Yes.
That's cutthroat. It's cutthroat friendship right there.
Yeah. I think some of the parents found out, and they were just like,
"You're not going over to the Bacons anymore."
But then we were like, "Oh, it's for charity."
Yeah, exactly. It gives you a free pass.
Yeah. What you don't like? Oh, you don't.
So you're for Hurricanes?
Yeah. So I remember doing that, and then like I actually bought a lawn mowing company from a guy who was in high school like a year or two ahead of me, and so he was graduating, had this lawn mowing
So
business.
you built up like you bought his books.
I bought his book, and I bought his trailer and the lawnmower, and so I did that for my junior and senior year, and then like.
That's cool though.
I remember like when they had like raffles, you know, for like raising money for the school, like just being very competitive to go out and like
Be the best at it.
I want to win that first prize.
Oh,
you know?
dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, and it was very motivating for me to just to beat everybody.
Yeah.
But this is very long route back to college where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to major in finance because like that's in my opinion is a practical thing that I should be able to get a job with, and like accounting and finance are very important, and like and I really wanted to be a money manager. I wanted to be a money manager because I had remember my grandfather worked at Merrill Lynch here in Grand Rapids for like 25 years, and he would always have the Wall Street Journal. My dad would be reading the Wall Street Journal. You know, they would be talking about stocks, and like we'd have like Barron's and Forbes, and like I would read all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I started investing in like mutual funds when I was like 10, 11.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yep. And I remember getting the Morningstar reports and like reading through them and like not really understanding what I was reading, you know, but like
still picking up the terms and osmosis.
Picking it up. Yep. And I was like, I want to be like a stockbroker like my grandfather. So I was like, I'll do finance. So Joshua, my other friend, he was finance. Sam was in engineering. So I switched it over to finance, but it was still doing like the general classes and stuff. After the end of I guess like the middle of my sophomore year, just like after my first semester there was a study abroad fair. And Michigan State at the time was the #1 school in the country for study abroad.
Like most options or putting most kids out.
Most kids and most options.
Yeah.
And it probably still is today.
So where did you go?
Well, hold on. There's a funny story to that. So, like, I was like, I'll just go check it out. It's a study abroad fair. So Joshua and I went, and like a lot of the booths had like students that had gone on the trips.
Yeah.
And it was like a 8th grade science fair. They'd have like, you know, like a little poster board with little pictures and stuff, and be like
sharing.
one guy. But then there was this one booth where there was like 9 girls.
Yeah.
And one guy. And they were all Asian, and they were like, the girls were like, oh, yes, this is Thailand. It's very nice and warm here, and it's fun. And like that was basically the gist of their sales pitch.
Yeah.
And Joshua and I look at each other and we're like, we're going to Thailand. Like
done.
Yeah,
deal.
done.
It's warm there, so
it was like 8:00 at night, and it was too late to like fill out the application. And then the next morning, it was like they're just like. I mean, we were just laughing about it all night, and just like,
yeah,
go to Thailand, it's so fun. And we were like, yeah, we're going there. I knew nothing about the country at all. This
segment is brought to you by Hong Thai brand compound herb inhaler. Have you ever used one of these? You just it's like kind of like natural Vicks.
They have a lot of those kind of things in Thailand.
It's really refreshing.
Like Tiger Balm is another one they have there. That's good. It's like menthol.
Yeah. It's like
icy hot.
It's like icy hot, yeah.
I like icy hot.
Sometimes I really. It's good. This isn't drugs, Mom. This is like herbal remedy. Okay, sorry. So Thailand. So you got suckered in by a good sales pitch.
Yeah, I mean,
and really just by good the
girls,
roster. The roster of participants.
It was 100% the girls.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know anything about this place, but I'm going. So like,
did you have a wanderlust before this? Because that you developed as
okay. No, but I mean, like, I hate cold weather. So like the fact that it was warm and these cute girls were there and it was inexpensive, I was like, you've ticked all my boxes.
Yeah,
like,
it actually was a perfect sales
pitch. Yeah. So I applied and got accepted, and then I got accepted to business college too, because it was through the business college. So first, the way Michigan State works is in order to study a business subject, you have to get accepted to the business college, and you have to have like certain grades. So I got into the business college and then was able to apply to that program.
Okay.
And then they had like this crazy thing where it was a scholarship. It was a Freeman Asia scholarship or something like that, or something like that. But they gave me $5,000 cash to go there. No,
Thailand with
like
$5,000.
No strings attached. Yeah. And so I remember like looking up, I was like $5,000. I was like, what is the nicest possible apartment we could rent in Bangkok. Like,
Yeah, you probably it would be hard to spend $5,000
because we all got it was Joshua got it too.
Yeah,
And so so we were like the internet was like, we had Ethernet like installed, like corded, like we were like downloading stuff on Napster. Like this was like, I don't know, this is
it wasn't as accessible.
Yeah, and so like there weren't a lot of websites that gave information about going to Thailand to rent apartments to foreigners in 2000.
Yeah, it's so much easier now, dude. It's like you could have something booked in 10 minutes.
Yeah, and so I remember like my roommate was there and Joshua was over there, and we're like, what is this place called? Fuck it. And it was P-H-U-K-E-T. And I was like, I'm gonna go to this fuck it place. Like, this place sounds great. And like one of the girls that was there, she's like, "Oh, I'm Mrs. Phuket." Like she had like won the beauty contest for that island. And
so that's how you say it, Phuket? I actually thought it was still fuck it.
No, it's actually pronounced Phuket.
Phuket.
Yeah, it's not, the H is totally not there at all.
Oh man, that sucks.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Fuck it. I'm still saying
Fuck it. We're going there. So anyways, I got accepted into that. We went there, and like that was really a very huge eye-opening experience for me. I'd been to Canada and like Mexico, but like the tourist areas of that.
But the complete culture shock when you went to Thailand.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, it was like, I just didn't do any research at all. I honestly thought I had to bring bottled water on the plane. Like I needed to bring water because I couldn't find treated water in the country. I was like,
there's no information.
Yeah, like none at all. Nothing.
Did Josh have any information?
No, nothing. Like it was all based on the girls and the warm weather. It was everything. And so like we got off there, and then I met this other guy named Joe. And
from Michigan State too.
From Michigan State, he was on the program too, and I stayed with a host family. So you could decide to like get your own place. You could stay at the school. They had apartments, or you could stay with the host family. And so like I was like, well, I'll initially stay with the host family, and they like kind of get you on your feet, and then like you can do whatever you want. After
it'd probably
that.
be helpful to have someone that knows what's going on.
Yeah, they picked me up. They picked me up from the airport,
Yeah.
and like I just remember getting there. It was like super late at night. It was like so hot out, and I was like, "This is great." And they gave me some noodles, and I remember driving from the airport, and it was nothing but like 50 minutes of nothing but pure city.
Yeah,
just and if you can imagine. There's really no detached houses at that. It was all a row house, like Chicago. If you're going to Chicago, it's just like attached houses as far as the eye can see.
High rise too, or mainly row houses?
They were mostly like 3 stories, concrete buildings. They're like 3 stories tall. But the interesting thing about Bangkok was almost every single first floor of all the buildings were a shop.
Like retail and
a retail
restaurant
shop, a retail shop or a restaurant. Almost every single one.
Yeah.
So like every person that owns a house there just like has a business on the first floor.
Dude, yeah, that's kind of how Japan feels a little bit too.
Yeah,
it's like, but owning a restaurant there isn't some fancy thing. It's like a very middle class existence.
If that,
yeah,
if that,
right.
Yep. I was like, wow, this is like really eye-opening to me. And so our host family had a townhouse that was like right around the corner that they owned it. And they're like, would you like to stay here?
Like to rent it?
Yeah, would you like to rent it from us? We're going to give you like a really low price. It's like $125 a month per person. And so like we were looking at some of these like serviced apartments for like
because you guys had that $5,000 burn.
Yeah, exactly. And so we went to the fanciest serviced apartments that Bangkok had in that time.
What's the lease, like the rent cost on something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was like it was as high as $2,000 a month.
But those are like high rise. Those are like penthouse overlooking like.
It'd be like 1,000 square feet. It'd be like maybe a little bit more, 1,200 square feet, maybe 1,500 square feet. 4 bedrooms, service. They clean it for you,
and it's all furnished and everything.
It's all furnished, and it was like $2,000 a month. But we were like, it's kind of a lot of money, like $600-700 a month in rent, and we were there for like 5-6 months.
We could do a lot of fun shit with $5,000.
Yeah, we could spend all of our money on rent, or we could just stay here at this, house for $125.
Was it pretty nice, the townhouse?
It was not. I would not call it nice. No, it was a standard concrete building with like very inexpensive furniture, and like it was very basic.
But kind of what you lived like how people live there though.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so, but we liked our host family. One of their daughters was in class with us. They had 4 daughters. And
That doesn't hurt either.
Yeah. Yes, 4 daughters. One was in like medical school, one was in ours, and then 2 of them were younger. And like, we would go over there and hang out with them. And and it was fun. We liked the neighborhood, so we ended up staying there. And so it was Joe and I, and then Joshua was at like some other kid's house, and he ended up moving into our townhouse too. So it was like 3 of us together. And so we would like just go to school there in Bangkok, and we were going to the best university in Thailand, in the whole country.
What's the university?
It's called Chulalongkorn University, and that was the name of their most like prominent king.
Okay.
He founded it. It was just the best.
Yeah.
And so like it was Chula for sure, like Chula. And so like when we would take taxis or whatever, people would ask, be like, what do you do? Be like, you could say in Thai, like, oh, I go to Chula. And almost the response of every single person would be like, number 1. That's all I would say. Just like, number 1, number 1. That's it. That's all I say. Like, oh, number 1.
It sounds like Ann Arbor.
And then you'd be like, what country are you from? It'd be like, America. They'd be like, number 1.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like University of Michigan. Only, yeah. But so, anyways, we went there, and like I loved my time there. And
how long of a term was it?
It was 5 months, and then there's like a month where like they ended their school early, so it was like a month where I could just travel.
Dude, that's long. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great because you could go there early too. And I remember, I mean, I could talk for hours about that. I'm not trying to do that on this podcast, but one of the host families, the mom, her sister was a professional bookmaker.
Was it legal?
Totally illegal.
Illegal.
100% illegal.
What are they betting on?
Soccer.
Like Thai league soccer?
No.
Or like Premier League?
Premier League soccer. So we would go. So she had a condo that was right off our street, and it was called Happy Land. Happy Land, and they had a nice huge pool. And it was like sun. We would order Domino's pizza, and they would bring it, and it was like it was heaven. It would come home from school. You get like beer was just like super cheap and plentiful, and like we'd be like, hey, like well, you know, like all the sisters would come over, and we'd hang out, and like, but the aunt would like have this apartment, and she'd be like watching football, you know, like watching soccer or whatever,
keeping the books,
watching it, and so like we'd be like, what's going on here? And she's like, oh, she's having one of her houses renovated. And so we're like, oh, okay. And so like, but she was like, I don't know, maybe like in her like early 40s or something like that. And she was there's a term for it, but basically like in America it would be like a butch lesbian.
Okay, yeah.
So she had very short hair and like dark rimmed glasses, kind of looked like a man, like trying to make herself more look masculine. Yeah. This is like a Thai woman and like a professional bookie. Yeah. Like, but it's like slender, but she would always have lipstick girlfriends. So it would be like super attractive, like 18, 19, 20-year-old girls that are like around her.
She's powerful.
Just like around her, just like hanging around her.
Like a harem?
Yeah, and like a different girl, like, oh, and we're like, I was like, who is, like, what is going on? So we asked the daughters, and they'd be like, oh, it's our mom's sister or whatever. And so like, I remember one time they're like, let's go out to dinner. So we went out and drove like 45 minutes outside of town to this like a very large house. And it would have been like, if it was LA, it would have been like a $15-20 million house.
Yeah, like Hollywood Hills shit.
Yeah, exactly. And so like we had dinner there, and I was like, oh, she owns this house. She owns 5 other houses just like this.
So she's bringing in some real
millions
cash.
of dollars. Well, I mean, I don't know how it's
equivalent to there. Yeah.
Well, I think she probably had over a couple million US dollars is my guess.
Yeah.
Like a lot, you know? And so I was like, I had got it in my head. I was like, what if I just could stay here? And like just learn from her. I just learn from her and then just do that and then just see how that works.
Can I be your Padawan?
And so I remember talking to my dad at the time, and he's like, how's Thailand? You know, I'm like, good. And then like the end of my trip was coming up, and I was like, what do you think if I could just stay here for like another semester? He's like, when you go to school? I'm like, no, just like live here. I was like, I
have connections, Dad.
I was like, that was like my host family is like this bookie thing, and I think I could like do that and like learn from her. And he's just like, I think you probably should come home.
Yeah,
I think you should
get involved with the Thai criminal
You
underworld.
should probably just come back to school. But like I had in my mind, I was like, I'm ready to like just test this out and see if it works.
Folks at home, bookmark that. So Todd already had an inkling of maybe some below board Thai activities. We'll get to that later.
And so, personally, at that time, like I had a girlfriend going into that exchange experience, and then like we broke up like a month into when I was there.
Yeah.
Just because it was like not. I was like, I'm gonna be gone for 5 months. We're not even living.
You don't
in
need to
the same...
explain why that's not an ideal
Well, yeah,
situation.
it's just like I'm like we weren't even like it just didn't work, and so like I broke up there, and then like interestingly enough, the host daughter that was going to school with had a crush on me. And I knew that she had a crush on me, and like some of her friends were like kind of like intimating that, and I was like, I just for whatever reason was like, I don't want to. I don't know what was wrong.
I can't be tied down.
No, not even that. I was just like, I for some reason I was like, I'm not that into her. You know, like she's nice and she's cool, but like, I don't want to have like a relationship with her or anything. And
She's
she was
kind of
like,
my sister.
Yeah, kind of. And so like, I was like, I didn't really like. She wasn't like explicitly like coming out to do anything, but like, it turns out that her older sister, I did form a crush on her.
The doctor,
the doctor, yeah. And so like. I remember we were hanging out a lot, and like she would come back from medical school and like show me that she was like doing stitches and stuff like that. And like, I don't know, I just like started to form a crush on her older sister. And so, and like, I remember like one time like I went across Bangkok and like met her at her medical school, and like we went to like a bar that had live music, and she was drinking beer, and like she was like a by the book, like hardworking, going like, you know.
Yeah. She was committed to the medicine.
Yeah, so she wasn't like hanging out at bars at night and stuff like that. And so I was like, I felt like she did have a crush on me too, which caused some resentment from her sister.
Oh God.
And I didn't do anything inappropriate, right?
Yeah.
But like it was clear that like we were spending a lot of time together, and the other sister wasn't happy about it, and it basically came to a head. And she wrote this like handwritten note that was like, I can't hang out with you anymore or something. That she had been like coached from her parents to be like, give this to him because like what are you doing? You know, like you're in medical school, and like this is just like some guy from Michigan that's gonna be gone in like a month, like 2 months.
Yeah. You think the little sister had something to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely she did. Absolutely she did. So I found out that she ended up like they had other exchange students after us, like from Canada, and I think she probably had a crush on them.
She just wanted that Western.
Yeah. So I was like, whatever. It was interesting because like the father was a tour guide, so he was he was Thai, but he mostly did tours for Japanese tourists.
He had Japanese language skills or something?
Yeah, he could speak Japanese. And so another one of the mother's sisters had lived in Osaka. And so they were like, hey, do you want to go to Japan with us? The girl that has a crush on me was like, do you want to go to Japan with my mother and myself? And our aunt lives there. And so I was like, yeah, sure. So I went to Japan with the two of them. And
was that other aunt connected too?
And the another aunt that was not the gambler, but she like lived in Japan, had like a Japanese husband or something. So that was my first time in Japan, and we stayed. And she had a cousin who worked at a pachinko, Cue the pachinko parlor.
Cue the pachinko clip right now.
if you don't know what that is, it's just like these
Slot machines, kind of.
with like with ball bearings that you kind of win money, but you kind of don't win money.
It's like it's just the noisiest environment you could ever be in.
So she and her friend worked at this pachinko parlor, and like we all slept together on tatami mats in their apartment, which was horribly uncomfortable and very small. And we toured around Osaka, went on the Ferris wheel, and that was my first time I'd ever been in Japan. I always wanted to go there, and I was like, wow, this is cool.
And it's very different from Thailand too.
It's very different from Thailand. Very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very, very different. Part of me wanted to like live in Japan at that point. And I was like, well, maybe I could like just live in Japan. And but I was in Thailand at the time, so we went back. My mother, my brother, my mother's boyfriend were coming to visit me in Thailand. And so I needed to find something for them to do. And I was like, what do you want to do? We could go to the beaches or we could go to the mountains. Those are kind of your two choices. Somehow, I think my mother was like, we're going to go to the mountains. And so we went to this city called Chiang Mai, which is the northern capital of Thailand. I think it's like the second largest city in Thailand. And it's like 8 hours by car, like an hour and a half by flight. So we took the train there. Chiang Mai is very close to like national forests, and you can go to like the highest peak in Thailand, and they have like hill tribes that live there. And hill tribes are people that are like not Thai, they're ethnic minorities that have lived in Thailand for a long time. And so they're like tribespeople. So there's like a Hmong.
But they're kind of sovereign.
They're not. They're subject to Thai laws, but they're kind of self-governed within their
kind of like the reservations here or something.
Kind of like a reservation. Think of it as reservations, right? And they're different tribes. We were staying at this hotel, and I was like, let's go on one of these hill tribe treks. And so you go into their village, and then you hike there, and then they will cook you dinner, and you stay at their house, and then you leave the next day, and then you go bamboo rafting and elephant riding.
That's cool.
And then you go to like a traditional Thai market on the side of the road. So that was like a 2 or 3 day trek. So I signed up for that at the hotel because I was like, I need to have something to do for them. So we signed up, and then this girl who showed up, our tour guide, it was her very first day on the job by herself. She had just completed her training she'd graduated college and just finished her training. Yeah. And so she shows up at the hotel, and she's like taking care of everything herself, and she has like an assistant guide, and she's the main guide. And she picks us up, and I try out my best Thai or whatever, and I'm like, I go to Chula, number one. No, she say that. But so then we go on the trip, and we go to this waterfall where we're like hiking. I'm talking to the girl, the tour guide a little bit, and we're talking a little bit, and then we go to this waterfall. Like she's up at this rock, and I'm like a ways away, and I look up at her, and like the light like hits her just right, and there's like water like misting, and she looks at me, and I look at her, and we like locked eyes with each other.
And you just tackled her.
And it was like, and like she smiled at me, and I smiled at her, and it was like that never normally happens to me. Nothing has ever happened to me like that ever before.
Yeah, that doesn't happen to anyone. That's a movie thing.
It was exactly like a movie, and I was just like, I think this girl's like smiling at me, and like it was like not forced or anything. It was like I couldn't even control it. And so we smile at each other, and that's fine. And then we get back in the truck, and then we're hiking together, and I'm like walking behind. She's leading the trip, and I'm walking behind her, and we get to the village, and she's responsible for cooking the meal. Yeah. And so we're all sitting around the fire, and there's like some German tourists and like some people tourists from other countries. There's probably I don't remember exactly how many people it was. It was probably like maybe like 10 to 12 tourists, and then her and her guide. And so we get to this hill tribe village, and then like she's cooking or whatever, and we're sitting next to each other at the bonfire. And then she's like goes in to cook, and she's like, "Do you want to like help me?" And I was like, "I guess, sure. I mean, the tour guide's asking me to help her. That's fine, And then so, like we're sitting next to each other, and next thing you know, like the night's wrapping up, and she's like, "Do you want to like sleep in the house with me?" And like not the other room where all the tourists are sleeping. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So like we ended up sleeping in the other room where all the other tourists were there, and then like we ended up like fooling around a little bit, in this like hill tribe person's like house. Like in this,
was it like a yurt or what was it?
It was like, imagine a house that was on stilts. So like there's pigs and cows and stuff underneath the first floor, and then there's like wooden slats, but there's no like there's holes.
So you're gonna sleep above. You're gonna make love to this woman above the pigs.
We didn't do that because like there's this is in like their house. Like this is like
yeah.
And there's like 15 tourists like right next door to us. Like so we messed around a little bit, and it was a good night. And the next morning, I'm following her again, and like sitting next to each other.
Shake it, yeah.
I think Ross says something like, he's like, Are you dating that? Like, is that your girlfriend now or something? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I think so.
I think it might be.
I think so. So we finished the trip or whatever. I still have like a month left because it was like early December. And so my friend was coming to visit me. Yeah. And so my mom went back or whatever. And then like at that point, I had like the blowout with the host family. And they're like, you can't date our doctor daughter. Our other daughter's pissed off at you. And like, you've caused a bunch of trouble. And like, you're not like, you're persona non grata at this point.
But you're still living in the townhouse.
I'm still living in the townhouse. I'm still living there. And they kind of want to like kick me out. And
persona non grata.
And so I remember like, I know for a fact they had locked me out one night. And so I climbed up the telephone pole, got in the second floor and like the sliding glass door, and then got in that way. Anyhow, my friend was coming to visit me. I was like, well, I didn't ask him what he wanted to do. I was like, guess what? I got a great trip for us. We're going to go to the Hill Tribe trekking trip. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Do it again.
Didn't give him a choice at all. Didn't give him a choice.
Yeah.
And so
you're going to love it.
Yeah. So we went up there and did that tour.
Was the spark still there?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. And like, it was even more so. We did the trip. It was a private tour. So it was he and I and her, and I think it was just the three of us.
So it was like a third. You brought your friend as a third wheel.
Yeah, he was a third. He was like totally a third wheel.
Just go over there for a while.
Yeah. And he didn't know what was going on at all.
You didn't preface it at all?
Yeah, no.
Does he know now?
Well, yeah, for sure. Everybody knew because, like, so we went on the tour and the trip, and then like he went back to America, and then like I still had several weeks left, and so I just basically went back to Chiang Mai because I had been kicked out of my townhouse. And
just lived with the hill people,
and was like her assistant tour guide. So I went on like multiple trips with her, carrying the stuff. Like I'm answering questions about the hill tribe people to this like German tourists.
They're like, are you native as well?
Just like, who is this guy? Like helping them cook the food, and like the hill tribe people are like, oh hey, how's it going?
What's up,
like, yeah, what's going on? So I went on like 5 or 6 like 3-4 day treks. Like back to back. And so like I had spent like a month with this girl. Well, here's another interesting aside. So like part of the trip is elephant riding. So you can go riding on a raft, and then you get off, and there's like elephants. You can ride the elephants, and there's like a river around there. I had gone on these trips, and like the guy who owned the elephants, the owner was there. And he was talking with some of the employees and some of the other tour guides in her office who were all there. I mean, like, this is a huge business. There's many companies. They're cycling through hundreds of thousands of tourists or whatever. Right. So the owner comes in. He's talking to the tour guides. And I'm hanging out with the tour guides at this point. I'm not hanging out with the tourists at all.
You're one of them now.
I am one of them. I've assimilated. And
did they like do an induction ceremony to
they're
the
just like tribe? I hang out in their office. Like when we're done with the trek, they all drink and party and like. And like I am hanging out with them, I'm hardy with them. I'm in the office, like the booking office. I'm like selling the tour packages and stuff. So
you probably liked having a gringo in there, like to
I don't know. They were
sales.
totally cool with it. No, they didn't give me any hard times at all. And so I'm just hanging out with this girl, and but we're at the elephant part, and the guy I'm with the tour guide, and she is like translating for me because my Thai is really not very good. It's a very, very, very rudimentary level, right? I can say some things, but it's difficult for me to understand what they're saying. Yeah. And so the guy is talking. The tour guide is translating what he's saying to me. We're like a couple at this point.
Yeah.
And so the tour guy is like, who is this white guy? And then they're like, oh, she's like, he's helping me out or whatever. And they're like, oh, where'd you come from? I'm like, oh, I went to Chula. He's like, oh, number one. Number one. And they're like, what country are you from? I was like, Sahara. Oh, America. Number one. He's like, all right. And then he's like, oh, you're a very handsome guy. And he's like, I have a daughter. But he's not talking to me. He's talking through my tour guy. He's like, I have a daughter. And, I'll tell you what. If you marry my daughter, I will buy you any car you want in the world.
I mean, does that like extend to supercars?
Yeah. Any car in the world. And so the girl who's translating is looking at me, translating this to me. I'm like, is this guy fucking serious? He's like, yeah, this guy's totally serious.
Holy shit.
If I marry his daughter, he will give me any car I want. She's like, what do you want to do? And all the other tour guides, it's the middle of the daytime, all the other tour guides like drop what they're doing, dead silence, looking at me like, what is this guy going to do?
Like, did you have to make the decision right there?
Yes.
Did you marry her?
I was like, nope. I was like, no, I can't. I'm seeing this girl right here, this tour guy. She was like, correct answer.
Yeah.
Right answer.
Well, could her dad hook you up with something? Or?
And so, anyways, we the month ended, and I had to go back home, and like I remember like getting on the bus to like leave, and like I ran off the bus. She's waiting at the bottom of the bus. I give her a big long kiss goodbye. It was exactly like you'd see in some cheesy romantic comedy. It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
But it was real life.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm
devastated that you have to leave.
I'm head over heels in love. Like, I can't believe this. I was like, I'm going to make this work. And she was just like, I'll wait for you. I was a junior in college. And so I had a year and a half of school left. And she was just like, I'll wait. That's fine. Okay. I was like, all right. I was like, okay.
Cool.
I was like, I don't know. I was like, all right. I don't know what's going to happen, but like, okay.
Yeah.
And so
it's kind of risk free for you.
So I was like, okay. And then so like I went back to college and I was like, okay, wintertime, Michigan State, had to find an apartment. And I was just like, oh, I really miss like Thailand. One of the guys who was on the trip found some deal to go on Northwest Airlines.
Oh yeah, that's a sign of the times.
Northwest Airlines, and it was like a special sale to Hong Kong for like $400.
Oh hell yeah!
Like round trip.
Yeah.
And so I bought a ticket without telling her, which was like 3 months later, like March. Then bought a ticket from Hong Kong to Thailand for like $200.
Yeah.
It's like $600. Didn't tell her at all. And so I flew to Thailand, flew to Bangkok, got a plane ticket to Chiang Mai, and then showed up at her office, at the tour office, and they were just like, "What? What are you doing here?"
She was making out with some other guy.
No, she wasn't. But she was on a tour.
Yeah.
And I only had like 7 days. And so somehow like they got me in touch with her. I went on another tour and like went out there and like surprised her. And then like she like was like, okay, I'll take a few days off. And then we traveled down south, and then we like went back, and then like her father was like,
oh, you're gonna marry my daughter, right?
And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna marry your daughter. I was like,
what's in it for me?
I was just like,
what kind of car
I've been offered a car already, and you're just like,
what's the dowry?
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, you marry my daughter, and she was all embarrassed, But I was like,
probably because there was an implication that you guys were banging.
Yeah.
And that's probably just means that it's marriage time. Is it traditional?
I mean,
that way,
I'm not sure, but he was like, it was like a joke, but like not really. He was just like, yeah, this would be great if you married my daughter.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, Dad, like whatever. But so then I left after that trip, and like we kept in touch. And then when I graduated, we were still in touch, and I was like, I'm moving back to Thailand.
Yeah.
So I moved back there, and she was like a tour guide, and like I was like, I need to get a job there. And so
what, you have your master's in business? You have,
undergraduate in finance.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I had interviewed so many places. Like all my the first half of my senior year was nothing but job interviews. I was like, I need to get a job. You know, like I need to use this. You know,
Right.
And so it wasn't my first thought to like go back there and like rekindle this relationship, because I was like, I really need to get a job as much as I'd love to go do that.
Yeah, you need to make some money.
Yeah, and so there's like a mini recession, like 2001, 2002, like a tiny recession, but it was hard to get a position at a college.
Yeah.
And like there would be like 20 interviews for one position.
Right.
And so I didn't get any offers. I had plenty of interviews. I got flown out to a couple different places. I got flown to Minneapolis, Arizona, and just nothing stuck. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to just take some job that's like some menial job, like
you can do that
either I'm going to
else.
do something that I wanted to do in a position I want, or I'm going to like do something else. So I want to go to Thailand. So I set up this interview to teach English in Thailand off of this website called thejarn.com, which is teacher.com.
Yeah.
And then got off the plane, and like that next day I was interviewing for this English teaching job, and they're like, yep, you got it, we'll take care of your work permit.
They're probably taking whoever they can get, or was it competitive? Or
so like if you're a young fresh out of college person with white skin that speaks English, you're guaranteed a job.
So there's no expectation of Thai skills?
None. Zero.
You didn't have to use it at all?
None. They don't want you to. They only want you to speak English. So like part of the thing was to have a work permit, you needed to have a college degree.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's not super easy to come by
Right.
for the people that want to be going there.
Right.
And so and they wouldn't want people that were like German that could speak English, or they wouldn't want like
They want a native English speaker.
They want Americans are number one.
Yeah, of course.
If British people are number two,
Yeah.
Australians are like number three, and like
They're tough to manage, though.
like so like they had this preference of like who they wanted. So I was like number one.
Yeah.
And so I got hired on there, and it was this place called In Lingua, and that was the place where I had took Thai lessons when I was exchange student there.
Yeah, yeah.
So they have branches all over the place. And
So you worked for the same company that you were taking the classes
Yeah.
for? Nice.
Yep. And so it was like one of the more reputable private language institutes in Bangkok.
That's cool.
And so I worked in a shopping mall on the top floor.
That's where the school was?
Yeah, it was a shopping mall at the very top floor, like the food court, and then like these like computer class and like language class.
The ivory
and,
tower.
Like, yeah. It was not the premier shopping mall. It was like I had to go
Kind of like the Jackson Extension program.
Yeah, it was like the old mall, like 4 miles away, like 3 miles away.
Yeah.
Like so it was my first job, and I had to wear a tie and like be there on time and like do the job that they had paid me to do. And I was making good money for a Thai person.
Yeah.
So like some of the students that I went to school with at the best university in the country, who had like all A's and were working for like investment banks and top marketing companies, international companies, were making like half as much as I was.
What kind of salary were you making?
I was making like $1,000 to $1,200 a month.
You have to pay for everything out of that, or do you get living too, or housing?
No, I had rented a $400 a month apartment, and then like another $100 for internet plus air conditioning. So that's like $500, and then I have maybe $600 or $700 left over.
Yeah.
And so I was eating at the food court and taking the bus and trying to watch what I made because I had to live off of it.
Right.
And so at this point, like the girl that was my tour guide, like she was still working. She did not quit. So she was like working in another part of the country. And so it turns out that she actually, we were talking and stuff like that, and I thought we were like still like, okay, well, we're doing this. Well, she was living with some guy who was like a tourist police captain.
Oh my God.
In Phuket.
It all comes full circle.
In Phuket. She was living in Phuket with this dude who was like the tourist police captain. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, I didn't know any of this. And I was like, well, I'm here in Thailand. I'm living here now. And so, like, you can make a choice. Like, you can stay with this guy, or, like, you can, like, you can come live with me in Bangkok.
Or you can drop the zero and get with the hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the way it works is, like, they have a regular police, and then they have tourist police. It's a totally separate police force.
Yeah, because we're not really bound to the same laws.
Yeah.
Because we're spending money there, basically.
Yeah. So,
but he also has a unique opportunity to fuck with you, though.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So, like, he was a tourist police captain in Phuket, which is a gigantic tourist destination. So he was, like, not salary-wise making a lot of money, but if you include all of the corruption money and, like, protection money and, like, bribes and kickbacks, like, he was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, grooming what I thought was my girlfriend to, like, be his wife or whatever. Yeah. And so she decided to come to Bangkok with me and live with me in Bangkok.
Wow. And
so she got a job being a tour guide in Bangkok, and then I was teaching English. I was teaching, like, mostly, like, very well off kids.
Yeah.
So, like, from very prominent families.
Yeah.
And because they had to pay, like, a lot of money, like I don't know, like $20 an hour.
Yeah.
And they do, like, a 3-hour block on, like, Saturdays. Their parents all own companies.
Yeah.
And so, like, a lot of them are just, like, spoiled brats.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be there. And so it's mostly kids, but sometimes it's adults too. And
was it enjoyable, though? Teaching kids and adults English?
There was time I enjoy teaching. It depends on the person you're teaching.
Yeah.
But the adults I certainly liked more because they were motivated to be there, and they had more personality, and they had more, like, you could talk with them. Yep. Yeah. And, like, but some of the kids really were, like, really fun, and you get to know them and their personalities too. And so, like, it's across the board, just like anything. Some people you like it, some you don't.
What's the environment? Is it, like, one-on-one?
So you could do a private lesson, but the real money was in kids' weekend classes.
Groups.
So it could be like 10 kids in this tiny room, and
you don't
one
speak
teacher,
their language.
and I don't speak their language.
What's their skill level typically at that point?
Low,
very
low.
So you're like, it's like two folks that can't communicate.
These could be like 6-year-old kids, six to like 14.
Hard to manage in in your own language, let alone when there's a barrier.
Yeah. So those weekends, you'd be beat.
I can't help but think of my favorite scenes in Good Morning Vietnam, which is one of my favorite movies.
Situation. Wilkie, something special, okay? You go into a restaurant, okay? A waitress comes up to you. You're wearing your best new suit. She comes up, she spills soup all over you. Looks at you like, I'm sorry. What are you going to do about it, asshole? What do you say to her? What would you say? They spilled something on your pants. What would they do? What would you do? I do nothing. Come on, Wilkie. It's cursing class. You're getting a little pissed off. What would you do?
I just remain reticent.
Okay, she goes in the kitchen, she gets a knife, she starts stabbing you. She's stabbing you, she's putting forks in you, she's got spoons in your eyes, Will. They're starting to cut you with knives and putting spoons in your eyes. What would you do, Will? What would you do?
I'm waiting to die.
That's funny. Yeah, dude, I mean, I've had some friends that have done English teaching in various parts of the world, and across the board, you included, it's still a good experience.
Absolutely.
It gives you a little bit of a break before you jump into the finance world, too.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wore me out over time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I didn't want this to be my profession.
Right.
And so a lot of people do it for like a year.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a year off after college. I'm going to do this. I'm going to travel around.
Yeah.
And that's pretty common. But a lot of the people that were in my department, in my branch, were like men, and they were like, they loved Thailand. They were not there. They were there.
Yeah. Like permanently.
They were there, like, well, at least for the very long, like the time being.
Just because they like to get prostitutes, or why?
So like I think.
Not that that's all that's there to offer.
So some of them were from England, some were from Ireland, some were from like one was from like Argentina, and they all just like somehow were attracted to Thailand. Yeah. And so, but like. And they were all odd in their own way. Yeah. They all had their own quirks. Yeah. Yeah. And so I kind of appreciate it. They were all like really, like, we would hang out. I had a party at my place once, and like the boss was like, he was like maybe like 30 or 29. And he was like he was a white guy named Miles, and his father was an antiquities dealer from England.
That's about as eccentric as it gets.
Specializing in Southeast Asian stuff. So like they would travel there, and then he was a kickboxer. He was like a DJ. And then somehow he became up being like the head teacher at this in lingua branch. That's hilarious. So like his girlfriend at the time, Noak, which is a parrot, was like a drug-addled prostitute. So she worked in the red light district. That's where he met her. Like the one that was within walking distance, and she was like insane. She was nuts. Like she was like from the streets. From the streets, like no education, like rough around the edges,
kind of feral,
tattoo. Like she was exactly like a feral cat, like not proper at all.
Yeah.
And so she would show up at the office, and like the office, like the Thai staff was like terrified of her, and they're like, "What? Like the manager? This is his girlfriend?"
Yeah.
And he would show up, and he'd have like black eyes, and she would like beat the shit out of him. And like I think she stabbed him like once or twice.
I mean it's kind of that tracks.
He would just talk about like he just like was like could not break up with this girl for whatever reason. He was like obsessed with her. And so we would go to the bar that she used to work at because he like
saved her from that,
allegedly, right? Then so we would go there and hang out, and like she knew all the girls there, so like it'd be like hanging out. I was like the red carpet, like the secret world that a normal tourist would never be able to get access to.
Once again.
Yeah, and so I'm hanging out with all these like rough around the edges bar girls, prostitutes, you know, with my boss.
Yeah.
And I'm like 22 years old, and I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so like
not necessarily the best long-term plan.
No, it wasn't.
But great for the time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
So we were like, I was having a good time doing that, and then I kind of like worked my way up a little bit to like higher paying English teaching positions. So I got a job actually at Chulalongkorn University.
Number one.
And working there on the weekends. Okay. And I actually did like a 1 month long training certificate program called the CELTA program. And it was really funny because like a lot of guys have been working there for a long time, and some of them didn't have that certificate. And so they all kind of viewed it as like, this
you've made it.
Like, yeah, like you have a CELTA, like you can go write your ticket to anywhere, you know?
Teach English anywhere.
You took a month, you took a whole month to do this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because you can't work for that month, so you lose that month of salary, and you have to pay like, it was like $1,200 or something.
Right.
And so it was like, they're like, when I came back, they're like, you're credentialed, you know? Like you know what's up.
The dean.
Yeah, exactly. So then I leveraged that to get a job there. And then after a while, I realized that you could make quite a bit more money teaching at like a real school.
Yeah.
And so I actually applied to an international school, didn't get that job. Then I applied to a prestigious school in Bangkok that was right down the street from where I lived, Bangkok Christian College. It was actually like a private boys-only school for like wealthy people that had been around forever. And
high school age?
Middle school, high school, and elementary. They had all of them together.
Okay.
And so I taught 7th grade language arts, and it was super funny because the book that I had was the exact same book that I used when I was in 6th grade.
The same book?
The exact same book.
That's crazy, kind of.
So my language arts book, when I was in 6th grade,
it's still modern,
is being used by 7th grade kids at this school like 10 years later.
I mean, at the same time, language arts isn't that fast of a moving. Isn't that fast?
It's the same book.
Same principles.
It was the same book.
But at least it's not like social studies or technology or something where like things have changed a lot, right?
It worked for them.
Yeah.
It worked for them.
And you knew the material in and out.
Yeah, exactly.
You remember that shit from Adrian.
And I was like, wow, who knew? These books do have a second life.
Yeah, exactly. There's like still
they're probably somewhere in Africa right now.
Exactly. Like the pre-Civil War history book, someone's using those still. In the South, at least.
So I taught there, and then I was working like nonstop, and I was studying for this financial exam because like.
Were you saving money?
I was saving money at this point because I had gone from like making like $1,000 a month to making like $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And so
which goes a long ways there, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saving quite a bit of money, and then I'm studying for this financial exam because my buddy Joshua had moved back to Thailand as well. And so he was working as an investment banker and gotten a job, bootstrapped it himself. And I was like, kind of like, well, I really should be doing something like that.
Yeah, using your degree.
Using my degree, and because this is like 2 years have gone by, and I'm teaching English, and so I studied for this financial exam and called the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst. And I ended up passing the first level, and so like it's a whole another year until you could take the second level. And then I meet through my friend Josh, one of his guy that he met while he was studying for this, like taking this exam, and he was working as an investment banker, studying for the exam. He failed horribly.
Yeah,
failed horribly, but his father was a Supreme Court justice for the Election Commission. It was a court just for like election disputes, but it was the highest level of that.
It's talking about a place that's like got to be just prone for abuse.
Exactly.
Corrupt as fuck.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so his father had gotten cancer and just died unexpectedly.
Oh, shit.
And prior to that, there was a very contentious election for prime minister. And so this billionaire former police officer who sold computers to the military and the police, the government basically, made $1 billion and then decided to create his own political party, the Thai Party, which means Thais love Thais. And
there's a restaurant called Rack Thai here in Grand Rapids.
It's probably his it's probably him, because he got kicked out of the country. So he sounds this political party. It's wildly successful. It's based upon like empowering poor people.
Yeah.
So giving them low-cost loans,
like populism,
free land, low-cost land loans, very cheap medical insurance, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, he wins the election by a landslide, and this guy, his father voted 5-4. He was in the 5 to let this guy win the election.
Also, it was disputed, and he was the deciding vote.
Yeah.
He was
on the winning side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Payday.
Well, technically, he and 4 other guys had the deciding vote.
Yeah. So they won the election for this guy. And then, he became a wildly successful prime minister, and this guy was like talking to me, and he's like, hey, like, I really don't want to be doing this investment banking stuff. This is not for me. Like, I want to start a company.
I'm never going to pass the CFA.
Exactly. And he's not.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you he hasn't passed it to this date.
Yeah.
So he was talking with me, and I was like, hey, I'm teaching English, and like, I would like to stay in Thailand, but I would love to start a company. So like, let's brainstorm about starting a company. So we did. And so we brainstormed for a while, and
just like any idea that came to your head, nothing specific.
Any idea, just a whiteboard, writing stuff down.
Yeah.
But like, in order to get my bona fides in, though, early on, he was like, his girlfriend at the time was studying economics in England, some fancy school in England.
Yeah.
And so she had this economics paper that she needed help with. And so basically I wrote this economics paper for her to like go into the good graces to go into business with her boyfriend. He was just like, this is incredible. Like, she got an A on it, and he's like,
I got it. Now you're qualified for
yeah,
it now,
like you can be the brains of the operation.
You got an A at that school, so yeah.
And so I wrote that paper, and then I was like, okay, cool. So then we were coming up with ideas. I remember one of them was to sell rice to prisons.
I mean, it sounds like a massive amount of money to be made.
First of all, I was like, who's selling the rice currently?
Yeah, how are they getting it now?
And it's like, how much lower level of quality rice can you give to the prisoners in Thailand? Because the prisons in Thailand don't have a great reputation for like good care.
No.
I don't know if you've ever seen Broke Down Palace.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I have to go to the bathroom.
You know that.
Please take me to the bathroom.
Yeah, so there's not a lot to undercut there.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know what the
you have to kill someone to take
I
that
don't know
role.
what the margins are on that.
Yeah.
So we didn't do that. And
well, you know what Mitch Hedberg says about rice, right?
I like rice. Rice is great when you're hungry and you want 2,000 of something.
If you like to eat 10,000 of something.
Rice is great when you're hungry and you want to eat 2,000 of something. Yeah. I guess if you're a prisoner when you want to eat like 150 of them.
So we didn't do that.
Thank God.
We ended up deciding on providing LED lights for traffic signals.
Is your hat fashion from the same technology?
It's probably yeah, it is. It really is. Yes. So, like, this is back in, like, 2005. And so it's not... LEDs are not even widely used in the United States at this point.
No.
I'm like, this is actually seems like a good idea.
It's like cutting edge kind of too.
It
like
is.
ahead of
Yeah,
the, yeah.
Yep. And so, like, at that time, the government was really trying to promote development within all of the provinces. There's like 67 provinces. They would have like these development contracts that they would go out. And so, we came up with the idea to take existing signs that either didn't have any electricity because there's like a slippery road, or there's like a buffalo crossing, or there's like a mudslide, or like a flash flood, or whatever. There's a sign, but at nighttime it's not lit up.
Right.
And so we were like, let's put solar panel on top of it, and then cut out, retrofit it, and have LEDs on the outside of it, so it blinks all night long.
Yeah.
And
Which
so
is great for public safety, and there's like a need for it.
Yeah, it's a useful product that
Right.
we thought would be helpful, and there's a need for it. And then also to take all of the traffic lights, the red, yellow, and green, and then take out the incandescent bulbs and then throw in LED lights and retrofit those.
Yeah.
And then save the provinces and the cities.
Utilities.
Yeah, tons and tons of money on electricity.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was what we did. And so, like, we were like, well, how are we're going to get our products from? So we could have gone to China and do it, but they were like, the government was on like a use local kick. So like, we had to pay more for the products, but like in a government bidding situation, you would get consideration because of that.
Yeah, of course.
And so,
are you getting guided by the Supreme Court justice during this?
He died.
Okay.
And so, like, I remember going to his house, which was a much nicer house than you'd ever think somebody on a Supreme Court justice salary in Thailand could afford.
Unless they're on the Elections Commission. Though.
Yeah, that's right. And so it was a very, very nice house. It was a full-time maid. And he had cases and cases of Fiji water, which was, like, very expensive.
Yeah.
And so somehow someone told his dad that, like, he could get rid of his cancer by drinking Fiji water. So he had, like, just cases of... Every time you come over there, just, here, take this Fiji water.
Okay.
Yeah, so unlimited Fiji water. And
so... It turns out not...
Did not... The water was good, but I don't think it...
has healing properties.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
So it's like a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
A hungry Fiji salesman.
Yeah, so we would go over there and have planning sessions. We decided on a local supplier to do this. His job was to get the meetings with the people who were buying these products. And so we went to people that were very well connected, business owners, the heads of the government. So we went to all these meetings, right? Some of them are pretty crazy. Like, I remember we went to one where there was this juice I like to drink called, it was Tipco. And so every morning I would drink a Tipco blend of grapes. So like white grapes and red grapes.
Yeah.
And it was like a little juice box. And so I would drink like 2 of those every morning. I've been doing it for years. And then so we was like, let's go to a meeting to this building. So we go to this meeting, this building. It's like this beautiful skyscraper. It looks like it was in like downtown San Francisco. It's like 45 stories tall.
Yeah.
You go to the very top floor. There's an office. This guy is like meeting with us. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry about your dad or whatever. And it's like, that guy owns that building. He owns Tipco.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Did you tell him you're a big fan?
Yeah, I was like, dude, and he's like, oh, no problem. He gave me like 3 cases. Like, he's just like, he just like, they just showed up.
Promotional samples.
They just showed up at my house, like some delivery. I didn't order it. Like, he's just like, here, just like, they just showed up at my house. I didn't even give him my address.
First level of corruption.
So I was just like, this is insane. He's like 45 story, and so he's like, I can help you any way I can. And then we went to like the environment minister's like office, and he gave us like this little like gift bag, like we were at the Oscars or something.
What did happen? Like nuts
it was like a calendar with him sitting like on a golden throne, and it was like, I was like, this is wild.
Yeah, what the fuck? What have I gotten myself into?
And so I'm like, this is great because like I would never be able to get meetings with any of these people. So and then we're sending us out to these provinces. And, we're meeting with the suppliers. And so we're like, okay, listen, here's what we're doing. And so the minister was like, yeah, we'll give you a meeting here. You can bid up to like, I think it was like $50,000 and that you don't need a bid. Like they can just...
No competitors.
No competitors. They can just choose which contractor they want. So he's like, keep it under $50,000. You're going to give me this much money.
How much? What percentage?
It was 25%, 25 to 30%.
Are the gross?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to bid 50, but you're only really going to get 35.
Yeah, and then you had to give some money, like 5,000 to the person
Purchaser.
there.
Yeah.
That would just be like per
contract.
So like imagine like the state of Michigan, and imagine every city having maybe even multiple contracts within Detroit.
Yeah, right. Like
so
250 different contracts just in Michigan at least. Yeah,
maybe more.
Yeah.
So like, okay, that's fine. And so like you give that guy a cut, you give that guy a cut. It was, eye-opening, because like when you go to Thailand, you're like, there's a lot of things that are not working correctly.
Right.
You can look around. You're just like, this is
dysfunctional.
Stuff's not adding up.
Yeah.
Like, why is like some like really nice here and like really terrible here, and why is
so much people
why
are taking
electrical
money.
wires are here, and like it doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah. After doing this business and like going through this process, I'm like, oh, now like of course it makes sense. Like I know exactly why it's like this.
Too much payola going around.
Yeah, exactly.
Leaves you no margin in the product.
Yeah, and so they were basically like, I was pretty disappointed because they're just like, we don't care what you're selling to us. Like
we just want money.
We just want our share. And so we're like, this is a good product. I'm like,
but let's be honest though. You're also there probably was still margin in there at that high of a price point. You could have made a bunch of money on that.
So like we would sell something. We were selling something for like $700. Our cost was like $150.
Yeah,
incredible margin.
Yeah, plus the payout cost.
Well, the $150 for the cost,
bill of materials,
and then we had to do on top of the $150, the 30% payout, and then 5%, and then
But there's still money there.
There's quite a bit of money there.
And you're rubbing elbows with like government officials.
Yeah.
So you're like in your head, are you thinking like I'm going to be a lifetime Thai billionaire?
I bought a condo based upon that. And so I was like, I'm going to be here for like the next 5 years. So I bought a condo. We had all these contracts signed, and I was like, this is incredible. How
many contracts did you get signed, or how much value?
Yeah, it was like $3 to $4 million in contracts
with installations already.
So the contract was simply, you have won this contract. You now have to install your product, and in order to install your product you need to have like a local engineering company, and you need to meet with like the town supervisor of who's in charge of like installing these signs, and so like there's a long process that you have to go through from when you sign that contract to like actually getting it installed,
right?
But you've won the business, and you have a year to do it or something like that.
Right.
And so we were just signing contract after contract after contract. And, I'm actually not sure about the gross amount, but I know that my share that I thought that I had was over $1 million.
Damn, and you're like 25, not even?
24, yeah. 24. Yeah, it was over $1 million US, and I owned like 30% of the business at the time.
Yeah.
And he owned 50, and we had two other partners that owned like 10 or 20.
Damn.
And so I was like, oh, this is great. This is fantastic.
Gravy.
Yep. I had stopped teaching at that school. And so I was studying Thai language every day for 4 hours a day, from 8 in the morning till noon.
Do you still know Thai pretty well? Give me something.
Sawadee krap, pom choo Todd krap. Wani pom kui gap Kirk ti ban Kirk. Gui gap.
How dare you?
Chi wit, gui gap chi wit, ขอโทษนะครับพูดไม่เก่งแล้วก็พูดไม่ชัดลืมคำมากเลยขอโทษ
Oh yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, okay.
What did you say?
I'm here with Kirk. We're talking in his house. My pronunciation is terrible. I apologize. I've forgotten many words.
Yeah, that's like my Japanese. I say, "Anata wa wakarimasu. Demo mata joutu jarimasen."
That sounds great.
It sounds great, but it means I'm just learning Japanese, and I'm sorry, I'm not very good yet.
There you go.
But like my like my pronunciation's pretty good, so they'd always like have a question, like. Oh, they'd say something else in Japanese, and that's literally all I had. So I'd be like, there's a Family Guy skit that's exactly like it. I'm like, that's all I got, for real. That's it. Don't ask me anything else.
Hola. Me llamo es Brian. Let's see. Nosotros queremos ir con ustedes.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But actually, when you said me llamo es Brian, you don't need the ace. Just me llamo Brian.
Oh, you speak English?
No, just that first speech and this one explaining it.
You're kidding, right?
¿Qué?
Yeah, that's always frustrating when you can like say something really well, and then they're like they get
that's
super
like an
excited.
entry, yeah.
Then they get really disappointed.
And then they're like, this, yeah. They don't
I
want
wish I
anything
would
to
just
do
never said anything at all.
Right, exactly. That's pretty good that you still know all that, though.
So I was studying that, and then like I would work on the business after that, and then teach English on the weekends because I still need to make some money because we didn't have any money coming in.
Yeah.
All this time, like the political situation in Thailand was getting kind of weird, and so like in the newspaper, it'd be like the people that were in power prior to the prime minister were unhappy. He was helping the poor, but he was taking a piece of their pie.
Exactly. And they had unchecked power for a long time, forever.
Yeah, and they didn't like that.
Right, of course.
Yep, and so he was enriching himself, enriching his friends,
Yeah.
and they couldn't really do anything about it. And so I'm like reading in the newspaper that there's like protests and they're not happy about it. And
these are people with power that are
the military and the royal family who are like are linked with each other.
The wrong enemies.
Yeah, the people with the crown and the guns.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to my business partner, and he's like, "Don't worry about it. Like this is Thailand. Like this happens all the time." And it's true. They had a coup like every like couple years.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
And so like, one day I wake up and turn on the news and there are tanks rolling down the street. Like right at the end of the street where I'm at, there's tanks rolling down the street. And so there had been a military coup that had happened overnight, and they had taken control of the government.
Oh my God.
And the prime minister had fled the country. Gone.
Dude.
What is this? And then so I get a phone call from my business partner that day. And he's like, "You see the news?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "There's tanks on my street."
I can see the news. I can see the tanks.
I can see tanks on my street. He's like, "Yeah. Remember what I said about like it's not that big of a deal?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's actually kind of a big deal." I'm like, "What?" He's like, all those contracts we have?" "Yeah." He's like, "Those are all gone."
Oh my God.
Those are all gone. Those are all null and void.
Never realized a single penny from it, any of it?
Nothing. Not even a penny.
But you really just put your time into it, basically?
So I had put in $2,500 of my money, and then my partner gave me that money back.
Oh, okay. You had plenty to go around.
Yeah. And so the business was dead. All those contracts got canceled. And it's funny, it turns out that like one of the guys that we thought was hooking us up actually backstabbed us. Basically just took them all himself.
Yeah, of course.
So like I remember going to this guy's house. He lived on the river, and he had a golf hole at his house. A golf hole.
Yeah,
like a proper hole of golf.
Par 5.
In Bangkok on the river.
Yeah.
He canceled all those, and then he picked them all up somehow, and like I was just like,
do you think that without the coup the business would have flourished?
It's really tough to say.
Or do you think that would have all happened anyway?
It's really tough to say in that environment because I was so in over my head culturally, and with it, and I think my partner was as well.
Yeah,
like his father had just.
He was kind of born with silver spoons to some extent too, so he didn't
absolutely
really know
he had
no
a maid, and he was like,
didn't really know either.
He didn't know. He just had all this. Oh, you know what? So, side story here. He had me drive a briefcase, a suitcase, a duffel bag of money to Chiang Mai for him.
That's like the most corrupt sounding thing ever.
So
did you know what was in there?
Yeah,
it was money.
It was money. Yeah. So it turns out it was $1 million. So it was $1 million. I drove it to Chiang Mai and then like just gave it
the fucking road.
Yeah, I just gave it to someone else. It's kind of like in that environment, you're just like, you don't know what is going on. And so like, who knows if it would have been successful or not, like
you probably would have gotten some money out of it.
Certainly there's legitimate businesses that are operating there, but like in that kind of thing, things change so quickly and it's so uncertain. It's not anything you want to like hitch your wagon to for like,
no, if you had an existing lighting company or something, it'd be a good one to go after and to land for a while. But if that's like your full book of business, it's too tumultuous.
It was too
volatile.
Yeah. And so at this point, we were still together. I was together with my
what's her name? The tour guide?
Her Apple.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I want to leave this country. This is too tumultuous for me. I'm burnt out, and like, why don't you come with me?
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay. I was like, that's the only way we can do it because like we have to get married because you can't just come to America and like stay there.
Right.
they have a tourist visa, but you can't be a resident. So she's like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And so she stayed in that condo that I just bought.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God. Okay. And then I left. And so like at that time I was like, I was on a ticking time clock to like get a job, any job at all.
Yeah.
Because, I had this girl from Thailand who'd never been to America before at all.
Yeah, you want to like have something set up for her when you
and
there,
so I was like, my dad at that time, went and lived in his basement.
Yeah, and he was sick at that time.
He was sick. He had cancer at that time, and he had it for a while. So he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer when I was the summer of my junior year to my senior year. And so at that time, he had ballooned in weight, and we were like kind of like making fun of him because his cheeks were all puffy, and he was just puffy. And we're like, he'd always been a very slender kind of guy. And it turns out he had pancreatic cancer, and they're like, listen, you have like 30 days to live.
Yeah, that's an aggressive one.
You're like you're not gonna live very long.
So what, you like retain water from it or something? Or?
He became like jaundiced, and like that's how he went to the doctor because like he was all like out of sorts.
Yeah.
Somehow they were able to like get it under control, and he would go get like experimental treatments at his oncologist at University of Michigan, who was like a
world renowned
a hotshot.
Yeah.
And because he's at Michigan.
Yeah, of course. Number one.
So anyways, he went there, and then like he was able to prolong his life for 5 years.
That's good.
Which is like
he had a pretty good quality of life.
99%, survival rate for that disease. Well, he was able to outlive 99% of the people who would have been diagnosed. It's like these aren't exact numbers, but he lived way longer than most people. So, but he's still sick with cancer, and so I'm living in his basement, and I'm like, I have to get a job. So I was applying to anything I possibly could, and then the first one I gave me an offer was in Minnesota. So
in Minneapolis,
in just outside Minneapolis, in a town called Eden Prairie, a wealthy suburb of Minneapolis. So I moved there, and I worked for this company called Eaton Corporation, and they're a large industrial conglomerate.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them over in West Michigan. Yeah,
and so I worked in their hydraulics department as a pricing analyst.
Oh.
Really, like, this was my first time.
Real job with the finance background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to, like, hang out with a bunch of prostitutes with my boss. It's
very different.
My boss doesn't show up with, like, black eyes from his, from his wife. It's a different environment.
Yeah.
But, I showed up there and tried my best to make it work. And then she came over a couple months later, and we had an apartment, and I was doing that and just trying to like make a go of it. And then, we got married. We got married in Holland.
Okay.
In Holland.
Nice.
Because you have to get married within 90 days.
Okay.
Or it might even be like 30. It's a very short period. Like when they're there, like you have to get married. I think it's 90 days. And then you're like at a very short leash for like 3 years.
Okay.
Because they can send you back for anything.
Like,
really.
any
minor
infraction.
Any infraction. Yeah, like if you got a DUI, I think they could just ship you back.
Yeah, damn.
Anyway, she came over, and a funny story was, I had a Jeep Cherokee Sport 2001 that I bought used at the time, and like I didn't get it checked out properly. I just bought it from this guy, and when I would drive it, sometimes it would start shaking violently. like as if like two giants were just like ripping apart like each side. Like she's shaking like a violent like
it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah, like it's gonna fall apart. Like the whole thing is just like the worst earthquake you've ever been in. Like I didn't know why it would happen. It would just happen sometimes, and I didn't know anything why. Other times it'd be fine. Yeah. So like I was living in this apartment, and there was a Domino's pizza that was like basically connected to our apartment complex. Okay, like this tiny strip mall gas station Domino's pizza.
You love the Domino's.
And so I was driving to go pick her up from the airport. She's never been to America. And then like I'm driving a third of the way there, it starts doing it on the highway. I can't make it. This is before smartphones, and she doesn't have a cell phone or anything.
Yeah. Or any connection.
Anything at all. Nothing. No phone numbers or anything. And so I'm like freaking out. Like, what am I going to do? Oh my God. So I drive back to Domino's, to my apartment, and I run into Domino's. I'm like, I need to get a ride to the airport. Is there any delivery driver? I'll give you like whatever you want, like money.
Yeah.
to take me to the airport, and they're like, okay, let's go.
Like, hell yeah.
So it's like I drove with the Domino's driver and picked her up.
Did you bring her a pizza?
No, I didn't. Oh, no. I didn't have time. Like, I was already late, you know? Like, I didn't even think about that. Going back, I should have totally got her at least some...
I told you I got a job.
Some crazy bread or something. So I picked her up from the airport in a Domino's delivery with the driver.
Welcome to America.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Perhaps a sign of things to come.
Yeah. That things weren't all as they seem. They were not going to go well. So,
but at this time, you are thinking they're going to, though, right?
Well, at that point, it was like, let's just give it a try in America.
And the only way you can do that is to get married.
Yeah. That's it. So the option was to terminate the relationship forever, or to continue the relationship and get married. And so I was like, we'd been together for 3 years, and then a year and a half while we were apart, right? So it'd been a while, like 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, let's just try it out in America, and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
No, who cares?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we did that, got married, and then I was doing that job. And then my father passed away. He came and visited us in like Thanksgiving, and then passed away like just after that. Like,
so what? This is like 2009. 9.
No, 8.
Okay.
8. No, this is the end of 2007. I'm sorry.
Okay.
End of 2007. So he passed away then.
So that had to be a hard time.
Yeah, it was very, very difficult. It was very, very hard because I was living in Minneapolis. He had passed away in Michigan.
Yeah.
And like I didn't get to see him like on his deathbed or anything. But he came and visited for Thanksgiving, and then like just took a turn for the worse like very shortly after, like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
That was bad, and because we just thought that he was gonna like
just invincible kind of.
Yeah, like it's not. He just has it under control.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years. Like, why would it? Why?
Even though that's what the doctors said was going to happen 30 days from when they first diagnosed him.
Yeah, because we all just kind of got accustomed to him like beating the odds.
Yeah.
So then he passed away, and so I was like, oh, here in Minneapolis, like I don't have any family here, and like we don't really know anyone here.
Yeah.
And so that was tough. And then, I was doing that job, and I didn't particularly. Well, at that point, I had gotten promoted. So I had gotten promoted to be a senior financial analyst, which was a totally different job.
Yeah.
And so I got to go up to the second floor and like got more pay and different title, and then was doing that job for a while, and then like I really was not feeling that job at all. Like I was like I could not see myself doing this.
Yeah.
And like I looked at the bosses, that were like in their like 40s and 50s, and I was like, I don't care how much they're making, like I don't want their life.
Right. And plus you're gonna have to wait them out now. There's nowhere to go.
And you were talking a long time,
Right.
And I'm just like, I've been doing this for like this new job for like, a year, and I'm like, this is not what I want to be doing. And so at that time there was layoffs in my company.
Mm-hmm.
There's layoffs, and the economy was like cratering. And so I had gotten laid off from that position, but like there's very, very generous unemployment, and
because it was like the recession, right?
Yeah, the Great Recession.
Yeah,
they called it
Great Recession. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I had gotten laid off, and then I was like, okay, well I want to go start do something, right? So I actually went to tried to go to Michigan to start a business, and then that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Minneapolis. At this time, my wife and I were split up. We're separated. Things have gone terribly south there.
Yeah.
This business did not turn out for me. Like, I'm just like, what is going on? Like, okay, well, just keep going. So then I had met this person. Somehow, some way, someone was like, hey, you should like go talk to this guy who's a financial advisor, because I had mentioned to them I might want to be a financial advisor because I thought I could help people with their finances.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what I wanted to do. So I met this guy, and it turned into an interview. He's interviewing me, and he's like, why don't you join our training program? So I had joined their training program to be a financial advisor with their company, and my mentor, who is my age, who had been doing that job for a few years, we had gotten to hit it off together, very like-minded and similar. He was doing health insurance at the time, and like nobody else wanted to do health insurance at all in the office. They hated it. And so he did the health insurance for all the people. And at that time, it was just like low pay, low commission, terrible work.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, that doesn't seem great. But then there was a subset of it where like you could do Medicare supplement insurance. And the more I learned about it, the more interested I was in it. And so I was like, hey, this is pretty interesting. Why don't we just quit? Let's just quit this company and start our own company.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have
in the health insurance specifically.
Yeah. And we'll start a health insurance company that's focused on Medicare.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And
so you were a broker?
We were brokers. That's right. Yep. And so we were brokers, and we decided to focus on people that were turning 65. So we bought a list of all the people in Minneapolis area that were turning 65 within the 3 months. And then we hired a copywriter. He wrote some postcards for us, and then we mailed them all a postcard. So a series of 3 postcards, and then the postcard would say, hey, you're turning 65, Medicare is confusing. We wrote a report called Medicare Made Simple. Call us, we'll send you that report for free, no obligation. Then we send the report to them, and the report, it's like, Medicare is pretty confusing. Why don't you give us a call?
Yeah.
For a free appointment.
Yeah.
And so we founded our business that way.
Did you get a pretty good response from all that?
It was low. The first year was brutal. It was brutal because it takes a long time. They turn 65 in 3 months, and then you have to sign them up, and you might not get a commission for like 5 or 6 month lead.
Yeah, it's a long cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just one person.
Yeah.
And so we used to drive to people's homes.
Yeah, because they're older crowd.
Well, nobody was doing that at this time. We had no customers. We had no clients. So
yeah, you had nothing to do.
We have nothing to do. Like, we'll meet you at your house, and it costs nothing. So why don't you just call us?
Yeah.
And so, like, we didn't know anything about this. I mean, we knew about the product and stuff, but this was all new to us. So, like, meeting with the customer and stuff, and so we like had gifts that we would give to people because there's a law that said like you can only give out a gift that's like $15 or less or something, but it can't be like cash convertible, so you couldn't give out gift cards.
Yeah.
So like we somehow thought it'd be a good idea to give out books that were like inspirational books. And so one of the books we gave out was Tuesdays with Maury.
Oh yeah, Mitch album.
Yeah. And we're like, which is like a sad book.
Yeah, it's about losing a friend.
About an elderly man who's dying.
A bunch of people that are facing their elderly days.
I'm gonna come back next Tuesday, okay? Yeah. I'll bring Janine with me, okay? Next Tuesday.
Of course, next Tuesday. We're Tuesday people.
Maury died on a Saturday morning.
So we're like, what are we doing? Like, why are we giving this book out? So we stopped doing that.
Just want to remind you guys that you don't have long. Make sure you take care of your Have you heard of term life insurance?
So we stopped doing that. People are like, yeah, thanks, I guess. We like, here, take this books. And so we didn't know what we were doing. And so we stopped meeting people at their house, but like business started taking off, and then Obamacare kicked in at that time. And so that really made our business take off because there was a guaranteed issue, which means that there's no health underwriting. So you could have a smoke as much as you wanted to.
Yeah, there's no pre-existing conditions.
No pre-existing conditions. So health insurance companies had to take everybody.
Yeah.
And it was the law that you had to be insured. Otherwise you had to pay a fine.
Right.
And so we're like, this is awesome. This is just like car insurance.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's going to need our product, and they automatically get it.
Yeah.
And if they can't afford it, they'll get a discount on it.
Right.
And so, like, we signed up to, like, be brokers for the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. The problem was the exchanges, Minnesota wanted to do their own exchange. And so they had run it themselves, and they were going to kick out all the brokers. And the health insurance companies were going to say, great, we don't have to give commissions to them anymore. We're going to save money. Everyone's going to go online and just do the stuff themselves.
Now we have to take all these subprime patients, and now we don't have to pay the brokerage fees. It might be a wash.
Yeah, but nobody really knew it was going to happen. Like, the insurance companies weren't totally sure. Like, everybody was so much misinformation. It was so rolled out, it was like the Wild West. Brokers are freaking out. Insurance companies are customers are freaking out.
Yeah.
And so no one knew what was going on. They totally botched it the first year. And then they were like, oh my God, we need brokers so badly. So like, we're going to have these designated broker centers. You can bid on a territory. And if you do, when somebody calls in that lives in that territory,
you automatically get that lead.
You automatically get that lead. We just forward them to you.
Yeah.
Like, we just connect you to them.
Yeah.
They'll call you.
They're just your call center, basically.
Yeah. They're a call center. And
Yeah.
so we won the contract for one of the busiest areas in the whole state. And then we crushed it the first year. We were just like the two of us. And then we actually hired an employee. And we were just like seeing how many we could do in a day, how many enrollments we could do in a day. And we just nailed it. And we were like, I think the third out of 18, we placed like number 3. Most policies written.
Yeah.
Out of 18, these were all established businesses that had been around for a long
bigger
time. With
staffs,
yeah,
probably,
with bigger, huge staffs. And so we were like, well, we had done really, very well.
Yeah.
And so the state was pleased with that. And then so we did it again next year, and like we were number 2. And then like, then like some of the other ones, people dropped out. We picked up those, and so at one point we were 50% of the whole state of those centers. And so, half the calls that were coming in were coming into us. And,
that's crazy.
Yep. And so we did that. And then after a while, it was not my plan to like make a career out of that.
Right.
I was looking to start a business that I could earn income from and then do what I wanted to do with my other time, whether that be starting another business or traveling or whatever.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I was like, okay, this is great because most of our business is in like a 3-month period. And 4 months, like a month for prep. And so I started to travel, have interest in traveling around the world at that point. And so I was like, I can travel for 9 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year, and then I can come back and work on this business.
Bust your ass hard for 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was like, that's very appealing to me. And so at that point, I went and traveled to Japan. I went back to Thailand, of course. I went to Laos, Cambodia, Burma. I did a lot of that traveling too when I lived in Thailand too.
Yeah.
So I got a taste for it when I lived in Thailand. But
all Asian countries?
No, I also went to Argentina, Ecuador, Peru, Zanzibar, Tanzania, Egypt, Morocco, South Africa, Jordan. And then I traveled extensively in the United States too.
Yeah. What's your favorite trip of all those? Or what are a couple of your best favorite places that you visited?
I think Japan, I keep going back to Japan because I think it's the most different country out of any of the countries I've ever been to. The culture is so dissimilar to anywhere else. It's so unique.
Yeah.
That it's really difficult to describe and like understand. It's just so foreign.
That's partially why we've bonded too. Is like it's hard to find people that have been there because it's an overwhelming experience of differentness.
Yeah, like I can go hang out in the hill tribes of Thailand, and like I get those people, and like I can I don't think they're weird. Now the Japanese people are weird. That's
no, but their norms are just not normal to us.
I can talk to them and have a good time. And but when I go to Japan, I just feel like it's so much different. I'm so unused to it.
Yeah.
That. It just for me it's interesting.
You feel like a kind of a kid.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like when you're a kid, you don't know shit either.
Yeah.
So it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So Japan's a favorite place of mine. I certainly like Thailand. I love Laos a lot. Laos is a great country. I love it. When I was in Thailand, like the college students there would make fun of stuff. And so they'd always be like, lao, 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 lao. But we didn't know what they were saying because there's a lot of words in Thai that are lao. Because like a tonal language, so it could be like lao, 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 lao. And those are 5 different words.
What the, yeah.
It's like cow, 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 cow. And it's like new rice, wood, burn, doesn't it? It's like... Those are 5 different words.
That's got to make it such a hard language.
It's super hard. And so...
Not to mention the King's alphabet.
Yeah. So it'd be like, they would say like Lao this and Lao that. And we'd be like, what the hell is all this Lao stuff? And they're like, oh, we're making fun of stuff. Like it's Lao.
Like the country?
Yes, the country Lao. And it's like, it basically means it just sucks. It's like inferior.
So you had low expectations going there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like they're making fun of this country Laos. Like it's like this terrible place. And I went there and I was like, this country's great. I love it.
What was so cool about it?
So it was like very like it would have been like Thailand was like 30 years ago, where like people are living in more. There aren't as many cars on the road. People are hanging out by the river. They don't have designer clothes on. They don't have cell phones. They're wearing like traditional clothing sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the pace is just very slow, and it's like, you know, kind of imagine like what Americans might think of like Vietnam before the Vietnam War, like a traditional. People are farming rice.
Yeah, so it's like when you go to like
Buffalo.
Even if you go to like central. A rural town in the U.S. or something, you're like, wow, this place seems like it's 30 years ago or something.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah,
so that's what the Thai we're talking about.
Yeah. So that's Laos.
It's lame and old fashioned.
Yeah, but I loved it. It's
great.
Yeah,
it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And so like they have beer lao, and like funny, I was at Electric Forest, and beer lao is it's not the best tasting beer to me, but it's my favorite beer.
Yeah.
I love beer lao. Because like when I went there, like everything is sponsored by Beer Lao. It's everything is. You can't go 50 feet without seeing a Beer Lao sign.
This first grade graduation is brought to you by Beer Lao.
Yeah, everything is brought to you by Beer Lao. And so like at the time, you could get a liter of beer for 14 cents.
Yeah, it's a good price.
14 cents. It was good. And then when I was at Electric Forest, I think it was last year, this white guy had a Beer Lao shirt on, and he was with this Asian girl. And I was just walking by, and I was like, oh, I love Beer Lao. It's my favorite beer in the world. And she's like, my family owns Beer Lao.
What the fuck?
I was like, you're lying. I was like, there's no way that's true. She's like, no, it's true. 100%. My family owns Beer Lao.
Wow.
She's at Electric Forest. If you're listening, you know, that guy sent me that grape juice. Can
we get a couple cases at least? I mean, I've only really been to Japan, really. I mean, I've been to Europe and things like that, but like Japan is just, it's a special place.
Yeah, Southeast Asia in general.
I really haven't traveled. I was in some of those countries, but like for work for a day and out. You know what I mean? I was in India once, I was in Thailand once, but like I've never really been there.
Yeah, so
you know,
like those places. That I have a special place in my heart for those places, and like it's warm. The food is different. Like so, you can go from Vietnam to Thailand to Malaysia, and the food is very different.
Yeah.
And it's all pretty inexpensive, and it's delicious. It's warm. The people in Thailand are very friendly. Like they're not xenophobic. Like you go to Japan and like
they're great racist there.
Yeah, like first of all, a lot of them are racist against other Asian people.
Yeah,
and they have a superiority complex there, and like they're not super interested to like talk to you or like.
Japan is the most homogenous country in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like 98.5% Japanese.
Yes,
or something like that.
They love their Japaneseness. Yeah, they love it.
Yeah,
like a Thailand.
Their foreign term is gaijin, which just means anything but Japanese.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they have one in Thailand. It's called farang.
It's the same thing.
Farang, and like you think it's derogatory. Like after a while, it kind of feels derogatory, but it just means like that's what they called people from France. Just people from France had a white skin, and like they called everybody with white skin farang.
Okay.
So, but. Anyhow, like those places are great, and it's inexpensive, and Thailand's a Buddhist country, and so Laos is a Buddhist country, and they're just like
peaceful people.
Yeah, they're like peaceful people. Yeah. So
that's cool, just like the U.S. Well, now you're in Philadelphia.
Oh my god!
And which I know you love.
Oh my god! Talk about a different place.
City of brotherly love.
Oh yeah.
Is there a lot of brotherly love there?
No, there's not.
Has your brother ever been there with you?
No, he's never.
Not even my
real brother. No.
Jeez.
No.
But you don't even want people to go there.
No, you should not go there. No, I thought about doing like a comedy, going to like a stand-up comedy night.
Yeah, like an open mic.
An open mic. I thought about that because I just need to get it off my chest about how terrible Philadelphia is.
It's just like venting.
I need to tell people. I need.
But to the people of Philadelphia, though.
I think I would get beat up. I think I would get assaulted if I didn't. Philadelphia.
At least you'd get a battery thrown at you.
Because it's one of those places where it's like the people are so proud of their steaming pile of crap.
It's like the Japanese, except the Japanese have something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Other than the Flyers.
Yeah.
Than the Eagles or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not talking shit about Philly. I've never been there, but
I'm definitely talking about. Well,
is it truly always sunny there, or rarely? Or somewhere in between.
Sometimes. I don't know how they came up with that.
I think it's a play on the fact that it sucks. Right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
I'm pretty sure.
I mean, they don't even shoot it there.
No, and plus it's when they do show the on location stuff, it's always
like dreary.
Yeah, like homeless people and the dumpsters. And like,
yeah.
They found a baby in the dumpster.
Yeah, and people take pride in it, but I'm like, listen, like, if you take so much pride in it, like, why is there trash all over the place? Like, why don't you just put your trash in the trash can?
That's the best part about Japan, by the way.
There's no trash. Well,
no trash cans.
There's no trash cans? You can't put it anywhere.
Yeah, someone's like, well, you'd think that, my friends have always said, like, you'd think there'd be trash everywhere. I'm like, no, because you learn quickly, like, don't make trash because there's nowhere to put it.
There's nowhere
Unless
to
you
put
want to carry this napkin around the rest of the night.
You
don't
will,
use a napkin.
like an idiot. Because you like, there's no litter anywhere. And
you're not going to be the first guy to litter in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I don't want that burden on me.
Yeah. It's wild, and I didn't know that. I'm just like, there are no trash cans there. You're totally right.
Yeah. So don't go to Philadelphia. But now so we have to touch on this at least. A while back, you were moved when you met this guy named Miles.
Yeah.
And now you named your son Miles now.
Yes.
After him.
You mean the guy, my boss?
After your boss.
Yes.
The one that had the prostitute girlfriend.
Yeah. So he was a fun guy to hang out with, and like he was named after Miles Davis.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, his dad was like the antiquities dealer or whatever, like from England, and like thought Miles Davis was cool. And I had always liked Miles Davis's music. My dad listened to Miles Davis.
Well, if you think peeing your pants is cool,
consider me Miles Davis.
Oh, that was the grossest thing I've ever heard in my life. Let's go.
Consider me Miles Davis. Is that why you named your son after Miles Davis?
My girlfriend and I, we were doing a national parks trip. So like she had had a contract. Her contract expired, and I was like, why don't we take some time off?
We should make the point that your main role in that gig now is real estate.
Yes.
Like you own rental properties.
Yeah,
I
own rental properties. I had purchased rental properties in the Great Recession, and so I'm not doing the insurance stuff anymore, and I'm doing rental properties.
Yeah.
So
which allows you to do whatever the fuck you want now.
I still do some things that I don't want to do, but just less.
Yeah.
She had stopped working and was like, hey, listen, you can do two things. You can travel anywhere in the world you want to travel to for 6 months. We'll go anywhere in the world, anything you want to do. Or we can go stay in the United States and travel the national parks.
That's cool.
And this was COVID was like had just come out at this point.
Yeah, so parks blew up at that point.
They were some of them were shutting down.
Because they're so busy?
No, because of COVID.
Oh, because of COVID, yeah.
So, some of them were shutting down. They like didn't know what to do at that point.
Yeah.
Like this is like right when COVID was hitting.
So they kicked like the bears out of there and everything?
No, the bear. So we have lots of stories about that trip. That trip was amazing. But anyways, on that trip, she's like, I'm pregnant. And we're like, okay, cool, great. We're having a baby. And then so we had like plenty of time to discuss names.
Yeah.
And so I had already had names on a spreadsheet from before when I was single.
Yeah.
Of like what I might want to name a boy or a girl. So I had names.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so she did not. And so going through these names of girls and boys, and we could not agree. We just couldn't agree at all. And so like all of my names are just like not acceptable to her. And so the trip is going on. We still haven't agreed on a name. And so Miles was on my list for boys. And she was like, oh, I kind of like that name. That was the only boy name.
Only common ground.
The only one that was like, oh, I like that one. That's a good one. In the hospital, the baby's been born. Has no name. And like, and I want to name him Matt. First of all, I want to name him Kevin. And so it'd be Kevin Bacon.
Not the murder victim from Flint either.
Wait, what?
There was a murder. Was it Flint? Kevin Bacon? Yeah, so Kevin Bacon was murdered in Flint, like in this crazy, scandalous, like, sex torture.
A guy named Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, and so like a bunch of people were tweeting, like, I can't believe it's so sad to hear about Kevin Bacon. And so Kevin Bacon had to, like, tweet, like, my heart goes out to his family, but it's not me. It's a different Kevin Bacon, basically.
So we were like met with some friends in South Padre Island, and like one of the friends was like, somehow it came about that she liked to watch World's Strongest Man in the 90s on ESPN at like 3 in the morning, like in 90, like like 93, 92, 94.
When it was like, yeah, when it was
that
like,
was like
obscure.
It was like Office Space, where like Jennifer Aniston and the main guy characters like, you like to watch Kung Fu?
Yeah.
And she's like, I love Kung Fu. And we had that bonding moment, like exactly like in that movie. Yeah. And like, you like World's Strongest Man? And so we were like, Magnus for Magnuson? And she's like, Magnus for Magnuson.
Yeah.
A whole group thought it'd be a funny idea to name, if it was a boy, Magnus.
Yeah.
And so the joke like went beyond that weekend, and so they were like, you're gonna name your kid Magnus, and we didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So
it's a gender neutral name.
So like we were like, we had a boy name and a girl. We had to have a boy and a girl name. And so anyways, it was like Magnus. And I was like, it was growing on me. And so I was like, I really like this Magnus name. This is a power name.
It is a power name.
It's a power name. And then so I was like, okay, well, what about Kevin Bacon? And so she's like, no, we can't name him Kevin. We can't do that. He's going to get picked on. And I'm like, no, he's not going to get picked on. By the time he's like in school, no one's going to, his friends are not going to know who Kevin Bacon
It'd be like
is.
Jack Nicholson now.
Yeah, exactly. And so like my entire life, people have been asking me, are you related to Kevin Bacon? Bank tellers, DMV people, teachers, like my whole life.
No one asks if you're related to Sir Francis Bacon.
Yeah,
they just want to know if you're related to the
Kevin Bacon. Yeah, exactly.
The guy that had the huge dick and Wild Thing?
Yeah.
Is that why you thought I was related?
And so like my whole life, so I was like, this would be funny if we named him Kevin Bacon. This would be an awesome name. So I was like, Kevin or Magnus. And then my brother had a baby before I did. And then like we had our baby, and then like she wouldn't go with Kevin, she wouldn't go with Magnus, but she's a member of a yacht club of Philadelphia, and Kevin Bacon is a member.
Kevin Bacon?
The Kevin Bacon, because his family's from Philadelphia.
Damn.
His dad was a very, very famous civil servant from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Like he was
cop or fireman or
city
something?
planner.
Oh,
city
okay.
planner. So like he's like a god.
Yeah.
Like people still know him to this day. Like
even though you claim that the city lacks planning in general.
Yeah. So I'm not blaming Kevin Bacon's dad.
Okay.
So like there's stories of him like coming out of the office and like kids skateboarding. He picks up the skateboard, does a kickflip, and like gives it back to the kid.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Like he's
Bill
a
Murray.
legend. And so like he's a member of the yacht club, and I'm like, this is incredible. We have to name him Kevin. If you're not going to say Magnus, because then we can get a picture with Kevin Bacon holding him.
That's worth a picture.
Holding him, he can have that for the rest of his life. And someone says, "Are you related to Kevin Bacon?" He can show him the picture, and be like, "That's my dad."
And you don't think Kevin Bacon wants a picture of a baby named Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, no.
You got to look out for the other guy too.
It's perfect, and so I'm just like questioning if this relationship's even for me at this point.
If you don't see the value in this, I don't know what we don't have it.
Yeah,
it's not here.
I'm like, well, this is perfect.
It's fucking hilarious.
You know, the nurse is like, you have to name this baby. We cannot let you leave. And so I was like, okay, I've got a beautiful baby boy that's healthy. Oh, Miles, whatever. It's like whatever.
Get me out of here.
Yeah, and then but so like I did an April Fool's post like on April 1st. That said, hey, on my Facebook, that said, hey, I've got a healthy baby boy, and his name is Kevin Mario Bacon. And I took my brother's baby's picture, who was a girl, posted it on my Facebook, and like used that. And then somehow the press secretary from her yacht club had saw my post because she was tagged in it, took it, ran it with the story on their newsletter that like she had a healthy
with a picture of Kevin Bacon,
with Kevin Mario Bacon, and then that got word back to Kevin Bacon that like that she had Kevin Bacon, and Vicky was like so embarrassed.
The yacht club crowd's a tough
She
crowd.
was like, "Oh my god, no, we have to get this corrected." I was like, "Why?"
You have to print a retraction.
I was like, "Why? Just don't even say anything about it. No one's gonna care." Yeah. And then she was like, "No." So like she had to like tell him, and he's like, "I'm sorry, it was all April Fool's joke." And like,
so she knows Kevin Bacon to some degree.
Yeah. She was sailing with this brother like 2 weeks ago.
Kevin, if you're watching this, come on the show, man. I need a celebrity.
So she was her brother, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, like how's the baby or whatever?" And you know, like yeah, it wasn't named Kevin. And
you should have seen the disappointment in his face when he learned.
Oh my god, I was
that
just
guy can't catch a break.
I was just like to have that picture though, I would be like such a treasure.
You can always have another kid and name him Kevin.
Yeah. Let's try.
Or at least a puppy.
Yeah,
I know you're not a dog guy. A cat.
I feel like she should relent because she's, we've already had the compromise. Like,
yeah, even though the compromise was one of the names on your list. Vicky, jeez, dude, this is a marathon conversation, folks. If you're still with us, but dude, this is super fun. We have more to talk about, but we'll do this again.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe one of these episodes, because one thing I wanted to talk about that we're not going to get to is that you're pretty close to completing all the major league ballparks.
No. It's more than that.
Oh.
I'm pretty close to completing the home opener of every major league ballpark.
Even more specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To which, to our knowledge, nobody has done before, ever.
Well, what's your last one that you're going to have to do?
I have two left. So I've got the Oakland A's, and then I've got the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Both fun ones to go to, for sure.
Yeah.
Both like rabid bases. I mean, Oakland sucks now, but they have good fans when they're good.
Yeah, they're moving. So this is the last year at the Oakland Coliseum, we think.
But they're staying in Oakland?
No, they're moving to Las Vegas.
Oh, just like the Raiders.
Yeah, they're gone. They're out of there.
They better keep the unis.
Those are nice. They're still going to be called the Athletics.
Yeah, that fits.
They used to be a Philadelphia team.
They got the fuck out of there, too. Like, how about Oakland? I guess. I mean, that's not what I was thinking, but it's better than Philly.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go with you to one of them, and we'll do a special on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
Your last one, we could do a
ceremony. Well, you could come to Oakland.
Yeah.
You could come to Oakland because the last year they're doing it. Because after that, it's just the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to do all the Japanese.
Not home openers.
Not home openers, but just all the parks. But so the home openers. So one of the things is, I met this guy through this ballpark group, and he claims to have been to 9,400 baseball games, professional baseball games.
It's just an enormous amount of games.
Yeah.
You told me about this electric force. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so this guy claims to have done that. He has a spreadsheet that has all the games he's been to, who won the game, who hit a home run. I mean, it's like Rain Man level of detail.
And he's not a guy that you could really even converse with.
You really can't. You really cannot. And so you just have to take his word for it. I believe it. I believe it. So, like, I sat with him or whatever, and I talked with this buddy, and he's like, his buddy was like, told him about what he did. He had not done that. He had not done it. So I'm like, if this guy, to put this into perspective, okay? So, like, baseball's been around professionally for
100 years.
No, longer than that. Like 150 years.
Yeah.
This guy claims he has been to 9,400 games, right? I think it works out to like 3 or 4% of every baseball game ever played. He claims he's been to.
I mean, but if he's old and he's been really committed to it, he could do it.
So
a bunch of them had to have been at the same stadium.
But he has not come up with the idea to go to all the home openers.
No, he's probably not going to tons of stadiums. He's probably hitting like all the games at one location, right?
So he's a season ticket holder to the Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah.
And then he's been to a ton of Phillies games.
So if he goes to all those, that's 160. I mean, he's probably getting to 100 games a year.
So like I really wanted to do a deep dive into his spreadsheet. Is this real?
Yeah, like these games coincided across the country.
Yeah, so I talked with another friend of mine about this, and he was like, that's bullshit. Like, that, there's no way. There's no way.
This reminds me of a guy I went to high school with, and he once told me he drank 95 beers.
Like a Wade Boggs level Andre the Giant.
Yeah, he's like a little scrawny high school kid. I'm thinking like,
no way.
This is a similar number too. 9,400, 95 beers.
It's a number.
It's a liar's number.
So to like the person listening here, like they're probably not gonna appreciate it. But just if you sit down and think about what that means,
yeah,
it's maybe the most impressive thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Impressive is one word.
Yeah, what's another word?
Depressing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games. They're not that fun.
So it just impressive in the fact, not that like
the commitment is impressive.
Not that it's a worthwhile pursuit in any way at all. Like I think that's probably not a great way to spend your life for most people, but just like to be that dedicated to something for that long.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that level of dedication.
No, wait till when I'm at episode 9400. I'm gonna go back to this. I'll be like, that guy inspired me. I did 600 podcasts a year for 40 years. Oh, dude, I had super fun. Thanks for sharing with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the attic.
We got way more to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Next time.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be all about my story. I mean, to me, that's. It's not super interesting to me. Like, I'll talk about anything else.
You say that now after 3 hours? Now he's getting the good stuff. No, I think it's interesting. And don't forget to check out that patreon.com/atalkintheattic.
Yeah, for sure. Hit that up.
That's it, babe.
Oh, cool.
Just that was a quick one, huh?